All righty. Thank you, folks, for bearing with us. Our technology is expensive, but at least it's finicky. So we'll be coming out of recess from our morning session for the purpose of several land use items. So the time is now 1:05. Emily, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Thayer? Here. Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder?
Here.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you. We're back in session, as I said, for the purpose of considering several land use items today. We do have 6 items on the schedule. The last 3 are actually related. Several of those will be held in public hearing, and we'll kind of talk through the process as we get to those. The first, though, is a request for a waiver of impact fees from a former applicant for Touched by a Horse. Eric Larson, I believe, is presenting. Eric, if you could kind of walk us through this.
Thank you, Commissioners. Eric Larson, Economic Development Project Specialist. Before you today is a resolution for the waiver of the reduction of impact fees for Touched by a Horse. The background of this, on August 9th, the BOCC approved a special use review application by Touched by a Horse Incorporated. And that issue is not at determination here, it's the impact fees. The SUR is approved. Within that process to achieve or to get the SUR, however, the applicant discovered 3 pre-existing yurts type buildings on the property that had never been permitted. Those buildings have been used by the applicant as temporary lodging for a limited number of students during summer months when the weather allowed. Limited use. When a property owner, especially one who discovers as a new owner, certain things have not been permitted in the past on their property, and make an attempt to come into compliance, I believe it's in the county's interest to help them become compliant and to not make that coming into compliance too expensive for them. That encourages others to follow that same track, and when they find those errors, to bring them into compliance. The yurts themselves are not meant to operate as a year-round commercial lodging operation. That was likely envisioned by the BOCC when they approved the category of lodging within office and other services categories. Especially for something that's so simple and of limited use, the category of lodging is probably over applicable. And so I also want to say that similar reductions in fees for other compliance efforts by property owners will be considered on a case-by-case basis and should be considered on a case-by-case basis, but granting this request simply by or only by Touched by a Horse shouldn't set a precedent for other fee reductions. And with that is Cheryl Pierce, the applicant, with a little more background on the use of the buildings themselves.
Thank you. Hey, ma'am, if you could just start with your name and address, I'd appreciate it for the record.
Yes, Cheryl Pierce, 6620 Shannon Circle, Kiowa 80117.
Okay. And you are the owner? Operator?
No, I work for the owner.
Okay,
I'm an employee.
I thought I recognized you from the previous hearing that the owner wasn't available, but thank you. So.
The impact fees that we received after looking at the, I guess, regulations or however to put that, it looked to us like it was based on a 365-day use lodging, as if like an Airbnb, and the yurts that are on site are only used for when we have students in the limited times that we have them on site. They're not provided as lodging to outside. I mean, we don't have any plans for this, nor do we want anyone from the outside on the property. It's only for the students who are coming for the certification schooling events that we have during the year, and it's during the summer months. I wouldn't be out in the yurts this time of year, even with the heat. So, I mean, it is limited by weather as well. So.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the applicant? Dallas? Alrighty. maybe. I know we're familiar with the project, having heard it, and I think at least I know Dallas and I had taken a drive down that way prior to the original hearing, kind of separately to look at the concerns on the roadway construction. But I believe, did staff have a recommendation for reduction?
Yeah, the recommendation is to adopt what would essentially be 10% of the full impact fee. The original impact fee would have been $6,042.32. A 10% application of that, of $604 and change, would probably be most appropriate for the actual use of this building and the impact of that of those 3 yurts. The recommendation is to approve the resolution.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or comments?
So part of this, a little bit separate than the specific item before us, that we do not have a clear impact fee category for this type of lodging. So that's something that we need to put on the docket to discuss how we address such situations in the future.
I absolutely agree.
I got to push the button. Describe again as just how you handle this 10% of the time with is it with young people, and just kind of give me a little bit better description.
Sure. For the certification program, there are, most of it is online, but some of them, they do come for, we call them intensive weekends where they're learning on site. Some of the people stay in hotels and off-site, but we have these, I call it glamping. They're yurts. They're kind of like canvas sides with some windows that roll up and a door. And so it's only for the times that we have our intensive weekends, which are, I believe, 9 weekends out of the year, where the students have the option to stay in there. We limit the number. We have bathrooms that are available, so we limit the number of students who can stay in to 4 per yurt. They're big round buildings. So it's only when we have students on site, and it's only the ones that want to stay in them. They're not available for rent at other times of the year. Did that answer your question? I hope so.
I think so. So that the students stay in these yurts and not in any of the other buildings?
No, they do not. There is a residence on site where Melissa and her husband live, but the students do not stay in there, only in these locations or off-site at Airbnbs and hotels.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, the property was a privately owned, equestrian-centered property prior to operating a business
Before,
there,
yeah.
so the impacts really are not significantly greater. I do agree with staff that, and Dallas's comment, I do think we need to really look at our impact fees in terms of, okay, what's the intensity of the impact? I mean, certainly there's a difference between a 24/7 warehousing operation with trucks coming and going, a 40-hour-a-week business, or infrequent use. So I think we definitely need to look at that. As you said, we shouldn't be making compliance overly burdensome. I guess my third thought truly is in terms of timing. The best time to discuss waiver of fees would be when people are accepting a condition to pay all fees. So we really need to look at our process to make sure that applicants are fully aware of all the fees that may be charged. $6,000 unexpectedly, it can be an issue. I mean, if it's $6,000 on top of a construction loan for $150,000 that you knew about and that you took into consideration when you're doing your financing, may not be an issue, but I think we owe better clarity to applicants. And how we work through that process. And I know it's been a kind of a struggle throughout, but I think what you recommend is entirely reasonable. So.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we reduce the impact fees for Touched by a Horse, Inc. from $6,042.32 to $604.23.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation to reduce the impact fees to the numbers stated. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Alright.
you.
Okay. All right. Next, while staff is setting up, we've got a rezone. It's Robinson Amendment 1, a Maverick rezone. This will be held in public hearing, so essentially the process for all public hearings, certainly land use related, whether it's rezoning, subdivision, plating, a variety of different types of hearings and different focus, the process is the same. Staff will present. We may or may not have questions for staff initially. We'll ask the applicant to present matters that they may have in addition to staff. Generally at that point, we will either have questions or we'll open directly for public comment. Once public comment is closed, we may address questions that were brought up by the public. We'll certainly ask staff and applicants to respond. And at that point, if we feel we have enough information to move forward to a decision, we'll do so. If we feel there's more information needed, we may continue. If we move forward to a decision, it can be to deny, to approve, or to approve with conditions. But that's generally the sequence that all our hearings will follow. So with that, if staff is ready, and it looks like the screen is, I would request a motion to open hearing on Maverick Rezone RZ 22-0064.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we open public hearing on Maverick Rezone, the Robinson Amendment Number 1, RZ 22-0064.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Danny, are you presenting on this one? No.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danny Klebaner, and I'm a planner here for Elbert County. Today, I will be presenting two cases, and the first is Maverick Rezone, which is an amendment to a previous subdivision called Robinson, and the case number for this is RZ-22-0064. So a little background on this case. It is a request for a rezoning, and the action is to rezone from Agriculture 2, or A2, to Agriculture Residential. The location of this is 36200 County Road 1 in Elizabeth, Colorado 80107. The applicant is Mimi Kutchman, and the owners are Mimi and Jay Kutchman. The process for this case began back in September of last year, September 22nd. There was a community meeting held for this project, October 13th, and the application was submitted November 21st of 2022. The referral process took place shortly after, from November 28th to December 19th, and the hearing for the Planning Commission was December 5th. During the Planning Commission hearing, it was unanimously recommended for approval, and here we are, December 13th today. All noticing for this project complied with Elbert County zoning regulation and Elbert County subdivision regulation 14-day advance notice with ranch land news posting, an on-site sign posting, and mailings going out to a quarter mile. The location of this is just south of the Ponderosa Park subdivision. As you can see, it's right on the border with Douglas County and also south of, just north of Elizabeth there. An aerial view of the location, it is in the Robinson subdivision, which has just a few other lots, a small subdivision, and just off to the east is Rockhaven subdivision, which is a newer subdivision. The property is just off of 146 and County Road 1, also known as Delbert Road, and it's currently undeveloped on the eastern side with just a residence there in the western portion. Here's one last look at the property off of Delbert Road and 146. And again, the newer Rockhaven subdivision can be seen directly to the east there, and just the corner of the Ponderosa Park neighborhood, so everybody can orient themselves to this one. Here's a quick look at the zoning map. So this is currently zoned Agriculture 2. Agriculture residential, very similar, just smaller lot size from 20 to 10 acres. So the applicant would add one additional lot with a minor plat. To the north, you have residential agriculture with a 16.3 acre lot and several outbuildings. To the south, another agriculture 2 lot, 20.3 acres with a commercial horse barn named Horse Reigns Arabians. To the east is agriculture residential, Rockhaven subdivision with 2 10-acre parcels there. And to the west is Douglas County with multiple residential properties. This application went through the full referral process and completed that initial referral back in December of 2022. The main holdup on this was the application needed sufficient water from the Division of Water Resources, and during the period after December until October, the applicant was finalizing that. All comments and red lines have been resolved, and the referral process ended with our receipt of a letter from the Colorado Division of Water Resources on October 16th. So in Elbert County, we have 8 criteria for rezoning requests, and the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners are to consider these, actually 6 criteria. So the first is the proposed rezoning generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan? This proposal is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Comprehensive Plan. The community resources topic area of the Comprehensive Plan states that new development shall conform to state laws covering domestic water supply and septic system. This proposal complies with that policy. In addition, the natural resources topic area EN2 states that new development should minimize negative impacts to adjacent agricultural lands and designated open space. This proposal allows for limited residential uses and should not adversely affect any surrounding agricultural area or residential use. B, whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. This potential project is, with an additional lot, is in a very quickly developing area within the county, and the closest lots smaller than 5 acres are about a quarter mile away, and there are adjacent 10-acre lots, so this is very much compatible with surrounding land uses. C, whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the provision of public services. Elbert County Public Works and Douglas County reviewed this proposed rezoning, and access for the new lot from County Road 1 should not adversely impact any public services. D, whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the environment. We do not believe that there will be any adverse impact to the environment. Building permit review and working with our public health department for siting of their septic system could identify any site-specific environmental factors. The Division of Water Resources also reviewed the proposed well water supply and deemed it adequate. The Kiowa Conservation District had no objections with the rezoning or the minor plat. And E, whether the proposed rezoning would create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. The addition of a proposed lot is not believed to create any unreasonable traffic burdens. Public Works did not identify any improvements that would need to be made, and the new lot will have a private driveway that passes through the previously developed lot. And finally, F, whether the proposed rezoning will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the inhabitants of Elbert County. I believe that this rezoning request to agriculture residential will not be detrimental to county residents' health, safety, or welfare. There are no outstanding critical concerns, and the water supply was determined to be adequate by the Colorado Division of Water Resources. So I'll move to the findings. Elbert County Planning recommends the Board of County Commissioner to approve the requested rezone for Maverick RZ-22-0064, subject to the following conditions. These are pretty standard here. Conditions: the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days. The rezoning should not become effective until all fees are paid. Other conditions of approval are met and exhibits are recorded. And 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of County Commissioner approval. And just to be specific, this will include paying cash in lieu of open space for the new lot, which will be 4% of the appraised value of that new lot. That is it on this presentation for Maverick Rezone. Thank you. I will put up, look at the potential exhibit here and the previous subdivision. So there's the new lot there to the west, or excuse me, to the east, and the existing house. And here's the previously approved Robinson subdivision from 1998.
Okay, Danny, any questions for staff at this time? Okay, no. Is the applicant present, ma'am? If you have anything you'd like to add to the staff's presentation?
The only thing that came up at the meeting this week was on the bridle paths for the easement. And there are no, even though they're recorded, there are no bridle paths at the property. Just wanted to put that on record.
Okay.
On any of those sites.
Okay. So that,
And that also the property to the south of this is Indigo Hills Equestrian that USR went through last year and no longer Hope Reigns Arabians.
so the bridle easement that's depicted is not,
I'm sorry?
so the bridle easement that's depicted here is not on the property or recorded in any way?
None of them are used. Everything is completely fenced as is on all sections of Robinson. The HOA, from what I've heard, is defunct for the past 20 years. And all the neighbors, the next process is to get rid of it because it's not existing, really.
That's not uncommon
Yeah.
for older subdivisions, and certainly those with defunct HOAs. But in order to remove that, I guess you would have, that's kind of on the civil side with you and your neighbors to
Right.
form and either eliminate your covenants or make any changes there. But have any questions for the applicant?
Just a quick one. Access to that eastern lot, is there already an existing road?
There already is a road there, yes. On that side, going along the fence line, there's already 2 gates and kind of like a gravel dirt that goes back there so that we put the easement on that side. Originally, we had it as an L for the property, but the county didn't like the look of that, so we ended up just dividing and doing the easement.
I have no additional questions. At this time, I'd open up for public comment on this, if there's anybody that would like to comment. All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any further questions or comments? Or, yeah. No. Just seems very consistent with what's developing in that area. So, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Maverick Rezone Robinson Amendment Number 1, RZ 22-0064.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the rezone that was presented with the condition. I guess I do have to ask you, accept the conditions of approval that were presented. Okay. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I'd accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close public hearing on Maverick Rezone Robinson Amendment Number 1, RZ 22-0064.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries, so we've closed. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Jenny. And as I'd mentioned before, the process for land use hearings is the same. What we had just heard was a rezone that allows, in this case, the further subdivision and dictates the uses that a piece of property can use. This will be a use by special review. There's no change in the general approval that was previously provided for the use of the property, but they do want to add a structure to what was originally approved. So that's why this one is coming back. But with that, Danny, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. All right, this next case is for Healing Pines, an SUR amendment, case number SUR-23-43. The request for this is an amendment to an existing special use by review, for a group living, group home for what is essentially an accessory dwelling unit with a gym. The primary use is the Healing Pines Recovery Center that takes place 7 days a week with up to 8 rehabilitation residents and 4 staff. The SUR amendment is for the addition of a 40 by 80 approximately barn dominium that will have a gym and a 2-bedroom apartment to support the existing group home Healing Pines Recovery Center. No terms of the SUR will change with the addition of the accessory structure. The location for this is 5550 County Road 124 in Elizabeth, Colorado 80107. The process for this started in December of last year. The applicant is Paul Leafstead. A community meeting was held in May. The application was submitted in July, and there was a hearing with the Planning Commission November 14th, where they unanimously voted to recommend approval. Here we are, December 13th, for the Board of County Commissioners hearing. This project also complied with all Elbert County zoning regulation, 14-day advance notice, with a posting in Ranchland News, an on-site sign posting, and a quarter-mile radius mailing. The location for this is between Elizabeth and Kiowa, roughly, south of Highway 86 between County Road 17-21 and Elbert Road. A look at the zoning map quickly. Pretty much surrounded by other large lot agricultural parcels. To the north, agricultural lands with a 40-acre parcel with a residence. To the south, about another 40-acre agricultural parcel with a residence and several accessory buildings. To the east, more agricultural lands with a residence. And to the west, larger, about 80-acre parcel with a residence. Quick look at an aerial map here. As you can see, there's a lot of pines there to the west, so it's appropriately named Healing Pines out here. The developed area in this lot is to the north, and also shown here you can see the existing barn and a sports court there. Getting into the use details, this additional building will help the existing business meet staff and client needs. This includes additional space for therapy sessions. It will allow for one-on-one therapy sessions to be more private than those conducted in the main house. The gym and multi-use room will be especially helpful during the winter months. It will be for year-round activities. Often during the winter, this business has found that winter weather can really restrict people's ability to engage in physical fitness and activities without leaving the grounds, and that's a big part of the program here. The gym will have sports court, weightlifting areas, and sleeping quarters for a live-in staff member. This additional staff member is somebody who may provide support if needed. Few use details continued. The building will have its own septic. The new structure will be used approximately from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. The existing staff and clients will not change from what was approved in the original SUR. The existing number of vehicles will not change from what was used in the original SUR. The commercial well permit will not change. That allows for about an acre-foot of groundwater per year. Little look at the site plan. It shows the fire turnaround, and this building is screened as it's behind the main residence. Revised site plan got rid of a few of those parking spots and made sure that fire turnaround was large enough. That was the main comment during the referral period. A look at what the barn could potentially look at, like barn dominium with that second floor for bedrooms. The large open nature supports the sports court, and below that, those bedrooms would be the multi-purpose room. No objections are outstanding from the referral agencies. These were the referral responses that we received. Either no comment or all comments were resolved. So for planning, our referral response was, other than an additional building, the terms of the SUR are to remain the same. The well permit will not change, so be cognizant of water use. Typically, a household uses about 0.3 acre-feet of water per year. Obviously, this is a little bit higher use, but that acre-foot of water per year should serve everyone still with no problem. The building will be built to commercial standards by licensed contractors responsible for pulling the permits, and no additional employees will be on site. We believe that trips to and from the site actually could be reduced with the additional space for on-site activities and more programming. So for special uses by review, Article 3E5 of our zoning regulations lists review criteria A through F for special use by review requests. Planning Commission and then subsequently the Board of County Commissioners is to consider these criteria in their review of the request. A, whether the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. This request to add an accessory structure to the primary approved special use as a group living or drug and alcohol rehabilitation center, which was, it did require previous special use approval. While this proposed use is different from the traditional agricultural uses of the surrounding properties, it also provides services to the county residents and others. Group living is a special use or minor special use that is allowed in all zones, while this also rehabilitation centers is a special use allowed in agricultural or agricultural 2 zones. So that is compatible. B, whether the use will have an undue burden on available infrastructure. Healing Pines Recovery has a driveway that connects to County Road 124. This is a private drive that grants access only to the subject property and one other property to the south. There is no infrastructure in this area that should be affected by this proposal. and the adjacent county road is not anticipated to be burdened by this proposal. C, whether the use will unduly increase traffic congestion or burden existing road systems. This use should not unduly increase any traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. Elbert County Public Works reviewed the application materials and had no objections. A burden on the roadway system is not expected and no physical improvements were required. D, whether the use will cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. The use will not cause any significant pollution. The uses proposed are not believed to cause any significant forms of pollution, and really, accessory dwelling unit gym uses are not different from any other accessory dwelling units that are allowed by right within the agricultural zone district. E, whether all sanitation requirements will be met. All sanitation requirements will be met. Elbert County Public Health Department reviewed the application materials and had no objections. The building will have its own septic system, and that will be permitted through the county. F, whether the use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. We believe it will be buffered and screened. The proposed building does not differ much in aesthetics from any residential use. Barn dominiums or similar accessory structures are present throughout the county. And finally, G and H, whether the use will otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. This use will not be detrimental to inhabitants of the county, both present and future. Staff has found that the addition of an accessory structure to support Healing Pines recovery will not be detrimental to county residents. Finally, H, whether supplemental standards are met for specific uses as applicable. Supplemental standards applicable to accessory dwelling units are generally met as applicable for this land use. So finding, Elbert County Planning recommends the Board of County Commissioners approve the Healing Pines Special Use by Review Amendment SU-23-43, and it is subject to the following conditions. The applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. The special use by review shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the exhibit is recorded. Recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of the Board of County Commissioners' approval, and 4, the structure will still be required to get building permits, and the exhibit will have a signature from the fire department. So with that, that concludes the presentation for the Healing Pines SUR amendment. If there are any questions, feel free. Thank you.
Any questions for staff at this time?
Just 2 quick ones, Danny. Just to be clear, this is not expanding the number of clients that Healing Pines can serve.
No, the number of clients will stay the same.
That's where it's at. And then with that last condition of approval, based on our first action item today, if there's not any expected amount of traffic, maybe even reduced, will there be how will the impact fees be work so that we don't have the same issue we just had at the beginning?
That's a good question. There is some office space for practitioners there, but I believe it should probably have impact fees consistent with any accessory dwelling unit in the county. So that would be how I would recommend we handle impact fees for this.
So not the commercial standard fees,
Not
but
commercials.
residential ADU.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any comments. I just want to hear what the applicant has to say.
I had a quick one for Danny. I did neglect to ask in the first one, but the Planning Commission vote on this one?
Yeah, so the Planning Commission was very positive in their feedback for this. They unanimously recommended approval, and I think just based on how the business has been operating, it's been a success. I know back when it was approved, there was a lot of pushback and fears that this type of use might bring in undesirable types of uses, or people were nervous about it, but it seems to be an overwhelming success that's doing a lot of positive things in the community.
Okay, thank you. And then the other is, because I do listen, you mentioned under supplemental standards that it generally met the standards. Is there something?
No, just because it is slightly different from,
okay.
an ADU, but it generally meets
Oh,
all
okay.
standards.
I
It
just
shares the same
wanted to make sure we were
driveway.
not
Yeah.
overlooking something that needed to be waived or addressed. So, okay, thank
Thank
you for that. With that, I'd invite Mr. Lefstad up to, if you could, for the folks that are here, just kind of describe the business. I know
Yeah.
we were here a couple of years ago, and I know it was very
Yes, we were.
contentious and new, but I think to hear from the operator, I think would be good.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So my name's Paul Leafstead. I'm the founder and executive director of Healing Pines here in Elizabeth. Healing Pines is a licensed treatment center in the state of Colorado with an ASAM 3.5 residential treatment license. We're also accredited with the Joint Commission. Healing Pines is a 30-day inpatient care center staffed with an executive director, medical director, clinical director, licensed therapists, house managers, and clinical technicians. Programming consists of treatment 7 days a week with a variety of treatment modalities, including group therapy, individual therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, other holistic types of therapy like equine therapy, mindfulness activities, Pilates, art, music, and experiential therapy. I think one point that separates Healing Pines from other treatment centers is our low census. We have 8, and the average census in Colorado for a treatment center is 50 patients. The closest treatment center census compared to ours in the state of Colorado is 20. So again, we serve 8 men at a time. This allows us to be more selective with who gets into our program. We're looking for motivated individuals, and motivated people create a healthy environment for our guys to heal. Over the past 3 years of operating, we have collected data and input from staff and clients. We are always seeking ways to enhance our program to best serve the clients and our organization to support staff. We combine the holistic and outdoor activities with evidence-based psychoeducation for a well-balanced program. During the spring and summer months, we are outside on the 40 acres every day, hiking on our trails, throwing discs on our disc golf course, playing pickleball, basketball, volleyball, etc., on top of all of our psychoeducation groups. Physical health and well-being are a core component of our program. During the winter months, we have found that our clients struggle not being able to participate in as many physical activities. During the years of operation, our clinicians have found it increasingly difficult to meet with individuals for individual sessions as well due to the lack of space. Many conversations, so I'm talking a little bit more about the privacy. So to these points, this is what led us to the following resolution, which is we're calling it the gym dominium. It's a multi-purpose kind of barn dominium structure. We would like to add this structure to meet staff and client safety needs. It will meet internal safety concerns as well as provide adequate office space needs. A space for a multi-gym, multi-year purpose, a gym multi-use space for year-round activities, sleeping quarters for live-in staff member. In addition to the structure, we will not need to modify any staffing or client census, only expand the usable space and office space to better serve our population and our staff. There is no financial gain for HPR with this operation. So just breaking out the 3 different components of the building. So we'll have staff housing. It's a 2-bedroom apartment that will be used for a live-in staff member. We currently have a rotating overnight staff shift. Again, we only have 8 guys at a time. The additional staff member will be live-in and provide immediate assistance in the event of an emergency on top of the person who is already there. It is also an economical solution to keep 2 staff members on site 24/7. The office space, for the last 3 years we've been open. I kind of go into more how we've just struggled with having that privacy for our individual and one-on-one therapy. So each therapist will now have their own individual office space. And also we'll do most of our programming in that room. So this encourages guys to get out of the house, go to the building, instead of staying cooped up when we're getting snowed in on some of the snowier days. The gym multi-use space will be a gym space. We will then be able to have our physical fitness program on site. This also allows our clients to engage in physical activities year-round. Currently, outside weather permissions have restricted our ability to engage in physical fitness and activities. Physical fitness is a core component of our healing program, and being able to have access to a space to do fitness classes, weight training, and play sports in the winter months will have a positive impact on the program and overall mental health of our clients. I would also like to finish by shedding some light on the positive impact that Healing Pines Recovery has had on the community. Since we have opened, we've served over 20 clients who reside in the county of Elbert, in Elbert County. Those are not only husbands that have returned to their wives, fathers that have returned to their kids, but 20 plus fewer people that are driving drunk or high in the community. Just under half of our employees live in Elbert County. We spend $8,000 to $10,000 per month on food at local grocery stores. We contract with local 1099s for housekeeping. Equine therapy, yoga, Pilates are all local people. We also buy all of our cleaning supplies, office supplies, ranch supplies locally. We purchase some donkeys from our neighbors, and all of our guys do some service work every single Sunday and have been for the last 2.5 years at one of our neighbors' properties, dropping in T-posts, doing really whatever they need at their property. We have a system that is effective, and we are looking to enhance the client and staff experience with regards to expansion. We again are not, with regards to expansion, we are not increasing our census or changing our staff. This is purely an addition we need to meet the needs of our clients and staff. We are investing money back into the company to improve the therapeutic and work environment. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. You have any questions for?
Just a quick one. With the live-in staff member, does that add one member to your staff, or is it a substitute for one that used to come and go?
Yeah, this would be a substitute so it would actually eliminate an additional staff member for the rotating staff.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I heard you correctly. I just want to verify in our packet here, policy EG6 talks about the county should support development of agriculture, commerce, industry, and education and healthcare. I'm assuming that you are, the gym aspect is more than just to keep people from getting bored, but it actually is an active part of your program in the healing.
It is, yeah, it is. The weight training, the physical fitness is all integrated with a therapeutic component to it.
And I know you had mentioned the, I think it was JCO certification or?
The what, I'm sorry?
You are now certified. I know during the original hearings there was discussion about certification taking. You had to actually be in operation to be looked at for about a year or so.
Oh, yes. So licensed for 3.5, which is the highest level of care that you can get for a residential treatment setting. Hospitals get Joint Commission accreditation,
yeah, right.
So we're Joint Commission accredited for this level of care. So we have audits, surveys done twice a year for both of those organizations, and we just had our most recent audit with the state of Colorado and with, complete approval.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. And, having visited, not as a client, but just to visit a couple, I think probably 2 years back now.
Yeah.
It was actually very, it was very clear during that visit, the care and thought that had been put into this.
Thank you.
Certainly your efforts to provide a home-like atmosphere for residential treatment. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
There were some conditions of approval presented. If we're to approve, would you accept those conditions?
If there were conditions?
There were. Were there just removal of the sign and?
Yeah. So it would just very standard stuff. It has to be permitted, and you have to.
Oh yes.
Yeah. The recordation.
Yeah.
Yes, we will meet all those conditions.
Yeah, they were on one of the previous slides. Yep. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Because to me, it looks. You're certainly consistently operating with the original approval. Certainly. this does enhance the services that are provided and likely reduces the impacts on neighboring properties. And I think the entire business community appreciates the support of building a customer base that you had. So
Absolutely, thank you.
at this point, I would open for public comment if there is any. Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and I would accept a motion or final comments.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Healing Pines SUR amendment, SUR 23-43, that would allow the building of a barn-dominium or a gin-dominium. I'm not sure which it is. And you accept the conditions of approval.
Yes, I do.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. I don't believe there's any final discussion. Not seeing any, I would accept a vote. If all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. I would accept a motion to close public hearing at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move we close the hearing on Healing Pines Recovery Center SUR amendment, SUR-23-43.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close public hearing on Healing Pines. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Next up, we have, it's not a public hearing, it's just the assignment, public assignment of a hearing date for service plans related to EC West, which are the next few hearings that we will hold. Is there somebody speaking to that? And again, for the audience, this is not a approval or disapproval or consideration. It's just the public setting of a future hearing date.
Well, Mr. Chair, Mark Denrader, Director of Community and Economic Development. Did you need anything from us on this item?
Just, I think, a recommendation for the date
Yes.
for the hearing.
Yeah, so the date that we're looking at would be January 10, 2024.
And that's coordinated with the applicant.
Yes,
Okay.
we have coordinated with the applicant ahead of time, and that was an agreed-upon date that would work for the applicant as well.
All right, thank you. So with that, I'd accept a motion to set that as a hearing date.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we set the BOCC assignment of the hearing date for EC West Service Plan as January 10th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set a hearing date for the EC West service plans for January 10th of 2024. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Mark, do we need a brief recess to set for, yeah?
Yes, please,
How
Mr.
much
Chair. We
time?
can just have a couple minutes to get
Okay.
set up for this and get the applicant as well to get established in their respective position. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll recess until 2:05. Thank you. So we're in recess. righty. It's 2:10. We're coming out of recess, so if folks want to find seats, we'll get rolling. As I had said a couple of times earlier, all the sequence of events for hearings is generally the same. Obviously, based on what we're discussing, the complexity and length may be different. So what we have before us is a PUD zoning proposal and a preliminary plat for the project known as EC West. I would accept a motion to actually open both hearings simultaneously as the presentation kind of flows back and forth between the two documents.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we open concurrently public hearings on EC West PUD rezoning filing number PD 22-0060 and EC West preliminary plat filing number 21026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to concurrently open the EC West PUD rezoning filing and the preliminary plat associated therewith. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. First to staff, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark Denreader, Director of Community and Economic Development for Elbert County Government. We have Sandy Hoffman here today. She's our contract planner from Logan Simpson, and I'm going to hand it over to my esteemed colleague, Sandy.
Going to lower this a little bit. I'm a bit shorter than him. So good afternoon, Chairman and County Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. As Mark had mentioned, I'm a contract plan reviewer. I'm a senior associate with Logan Simpson, and I've been helping with this project. And as you've already covered, it will be covering both cases, the PUD rezoning as well as the preliminary plat. So the details for it is it's rezoning from ag to PUD, Pine Unit Development, and there'll also be a preliminary plat approval. It includes 1,464 acres. It's located obviously at the intersection of County Road 29 and County Road 174. So the owner is listed up there on the screen, and again, the case numbers are also there. The pre-application for the PUD rezoning was held on April the 14th of 2022, and the PUD application was submitted on September 14th of 2022. The referrals were sent out 4 times between October of 22 through September of 23. And then the Planning Commission hearing was done on November 7th of 2023. Obviously, we are here today for the Board of County Commissioners. And the notice requirements were met for that 14-day advance notice per the code requirements. The vicinity map is up on the screen. It's kind of a tiny little black outline of area. That's the site that we're talking about. And it is located within the unincorporated Elbert County, generally located southwest of the intersection of County Road 29 and County Road 174. It is 11 miles northeast of the town of Elizabeth, 15 miles north of the town of Kiowa, and 16.5 miles east of the town of Parker. It's a little bit closer view here. This view here provides some topography. It shows some lot lines, and it shows a sort of a drainage way on the far east side. You can see the blue. So the surrounding zoning for the site. The north is a plan unit development already existing. It's called Sun Meadows PUD. To the south is agricultural land zoning, but it's open space. East is open space, and so on. And then there's 2 out parcels that are kind of a little niche along County Road 174. But the majority of land surrounding EC West is undeveloped open space. So referrals were sent out to all the entities listed up on the screen, and they either had no objections to the rezoning or the preliminary plat, or their comments were addressed through the referral process. So there's only one item that's still outstanding in a way that we're going to cover through this hearing, which is the Colorado Division of Water Resources and the formation of a district will address their 300-year water assurance comment, and we'll cover that a little bit further in the presentations. So the PUD rezoning will go over first and the rest of the slides. So first, to cover the PUD rezoning, here's an exhibit. It shows sort of a a darker green area for its more open space. A little bit lighter green is their Village 1, and the lightest sort of green area is their Village 2. The total number of dwelling units between both the Village 1 and Village 2 would be 2,850 dwelling units. And again, they will have a minimum of 50% open space with the project. So the EC West PUD rezoning meets the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan and the general standards and guidelines of the zoning regulations for PUD projects. And there's Article 7 for PUD in the zoning ordinance that basically requires that innovative approaches and creative design of land uses should be encouraged with PUD development. And so also part of it requires a variety of different housing types. And this project will achieve that because there's a variety of sizes of lots from basically a half-acre size down to about a 1,500 square foot lot size. Right now, in comparison with the current Elbert County zoning districts, R2 is the closest one in a way that has a minimum size of 12,000 square feet. So this will be providing a lot more variety of different lot sizes and products. It would also, again, mentioned before, provide 50% of the area at minimum as open space. There are 6 plan unit development review criteria that are in Article 7F that the zoning regulations that need to be met. So I'll go through those over several slides. The first one is that the proposed rezoning conforms to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. And so down below it has a list of, there's land use goals where it encourages a range of lot sizes and residential densities and encourages open space and preservation. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, yes, they do have a variety of different lot sizes and a variety of different types of housing product that they're going to be providing, so it meets that condition. The commercial development goal is met. To support commercial use, they have 2 commercial sites within the proposed project, and they will be, again, providing that for support of the people that will be living here as well as the surrounding properties that have people that are living there. The transportation goal is to strive and maintain a safe and functional transportation. There are 3 access points onto County Road 174 and 1 access point onto County Road 29. So internally, there's a circulation as well, so across Village 1 and 2. So they should be providing safe transportation back and forth for pedestrians and vehicles. And I will go over a little more of that in a few minutes. And then a special district goal. That's to encourage the formation of an economically sustainable special district to provide services not funded through the county. And that is going to be done through the creation of the Metropolitan District, which will own and maintain the roads, the drainage facilities, open space, and such. So there will also be a minimum of 2 neighborhood parks in each of the villages that are being proposed. The next, continuing of the same one, water and sewer and wastewater disposal. You're supposed to strive to protect water resources and ensure that they are available. So EC West will be including improvements for a central water and wastewater treatment system, and they'll be utilizing non-potable water for landscaping. And again, the parks, for the second, number 1 on there, F on there, parks and open space goal, they will have designated open space and parks, and there'll be a minimum of 50% of the entire area that will be in open space or parks. And wildlife goal is met because they have amount of open space, and their fencing design is made to be wildlife compatible. So the second item for the PUD criteria is the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. And with the design that they have, with the open space and buffers along the perimeter, they meet that condition. The clustered residences and commercial are further away from the edge. They shouldn't impact the surrounding land uses. The third criteria is the proposed rezoning will not adversely impact the provisions of public services. So the project is proposed 2 school sites that have been identified for Elizabeth School District. They've also have additional resources for the Kiowa and Rattlesnake Fire Protection Districts and the Sheriff's Office. So they've already been working on providing additional resources for those. And they're having to include improvements to the surrounding right-of-way and the internal circulation for vehicles, pedestrians, and bicycles. The 4th criteria is the proposed rezoning will not adversely impact the environment. So most of the area in the project will be, low impact, open space. They're clustering the development to minimize what may occur. The design is working with the topography. The lots are avoiding the 20% or greater slope areas. They're avoiding the washes and floodplain areas. And they're going to protect the wildlife habitats by, again, having the 50% or greater open space. The fifth one is the proposed rezoning will not create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. As I mentioned, there are 4 access points to manage the traffic, 3 on County Road 174 and 1 on County Road 29. And the traffic impact study was done and reviewed, and it was no issues with that. And there's also going to be a trail system that connects internally as well as to the regional trail system. The proposed, number 6, is the proposed rezoning will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present and future inhabitants of Elbert County. So the allowable uses aren't going to contribute to air pollution or create disruptive noises. The list of uses that are included in their narrative are of a kind that won't be creating that type of disruption. They're preserving 50% of the area to minimize impacts and to provide a visual buffer along the perimeter and internally, an option for open space use by the residents and the public. And they're also having dark sky lighting to be utilized to minimize light pollution. So staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners find the following. 1, the proposed rezoning is in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. 2, the proposed rezoning meets all the criteria for approval in the Elbert County zoning regulations. 3, the proposed rezoning meets the requirements of the Elbert County regulations for a PUD. And 4, the proposed rezoning will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of residents and landowners in the surrounding area. So Community and Development Services Department staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners recommend approval with 3 conditions for the EC West Plan Unit Development rezoning located southeast of County Road 29 and County Road 174, case number PD-22-0060. The Planning Commission recommended approval to the Board of County Commissioners for the EC West PUD's rezoning. There was a vote of 2 to 6. Do I have it in here? Yes, 2 to 6, sorry. And they had 2 concerns from the 2 that were dissenting votes. One was that the 300-year water assurances and the lack of information about improvements that would be done by the developer to County Road 174, in particular traffic and dust. So the conditions would be, 1, the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. 2, the developer must demonstrate that the Board of Commissioners has approved the service plan for 1 or more metropolitan districts authorized to provide water within the plan boundary area no later than December 31st, 2024, or provide the county with a proposed financing plan demonstrating capacity to construct the water infrastructure and serve the community shown on the plan no later than July 1, 2025. And the third one is the development guide agreement is completed and acceptable to the county attorney in final form. So that is the rezoning information. Should I go right into the preliminary plat, Chairman?
Any questions for staff at this time?
Just a quick one. Notice that both Rattlesnake Fire and Elizabeth Fire are referral agencies, and that you had mentioned that they were both in some kind of discussions for beneficial for improvements. Is this parcel split between the 2 fire districts, or is it okay?
Chairman and County Commissioner, yes, sir. There are 2 fire districts that cover this area. There's been a lot of discussion. The applicant described a little further the in-depth discussions that they've had to try to coordinate the coverage and how they would be managing it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got a couple of questions on the water. One of the things that they mentioned that you'd be using the water for agricultural uses. I'm wondering, is that equivalent to like they have the purple pipe in Independence, where they have basically 2 water distribution systems, one that goes into the house and then one that's used for landscaping and that kind of stuff?
Chairman, Vice Chair, Commission members, I think the applicant can describe in really deep detail how it's going to be managed. All I can really comment on is, and I'm not an expert in the water, but they will describe it in detail, that the water that has been used will be put into like ponds and circulated, and then you'll be able to use it for at least the landscaping. So if there's areas along the roadways that have landscaping, they want to reutilize the water for that. But they have, again, more information that they can probably describe when they do their presentation.
Okay, because that's going to be important, because there's quite a bit of the public that have different viewpoints. Some are fine, some are not. So we want to make sure that we have a good idea, not an idea, a plan to maximize the utility of the water. Yeah. And then, as you probably know, we're in the process, and I'll let Mark address this, of getting a water comprehensive implementation plan put together. And it'd sure be nice if we had that in our pocket when we evaluate the purple pipe and that kind of stuff. Okay. Then one other thing is, this is just another curiosity item, is you mentioned the commercial aspect here, but I didn't get a sense of, was that significant or just a convenience store?
I'm not sure exactly what will be on the commercial sites. When they're doing the entitlements, they just show the amount of area, and then a lot of it is the market demand, what, people will come and they'll be interested in developing there. And I'm sure, the audience here may have opinions of what they would like to see there. So I will again defer to the applicant regarding who they might be trying to work with to attract to their commercial sites.
Thank you. If you want to move to the preliminary plat.
Yes, sure. Thank you, sir, Chairman. So the preliminary plat, it might be a little bit hard to see on the screen there, but it shows you the layout, kind of general layout of how the homes, if you can't see it, but at least how they're clustered. And the part that goes to the west, the very kind of little peninsula that goes over, that's going to be more commercial use. And then further to the east, they also have another commercial in Village 2. The homes, again, are clustered to protect the open space, and access and circulation within the project will connect to County Road 29 and County Road 174. This gives you a little bit more graphic image that kind of shows the grayish areas for development and then the green areas for open space and parks and such. And the commercial list in Village, where it says Village 1, that part down just below that is where the more commercial area will be. And then farther along the far east boundary of it, that's where the road kind of curves out from the boundary. That's going to be commercial as well. And again, more than 50% of the overall site will be in open space. The preliminary plat meets the requirements of Article 4 and Article 11 of the Elbert County Subdivision Regulations. So first, open space. The conservation community requirements have been met. The open space shall be at least 50% of the gross land area. It will be should have logical contiguity, connectivity. So it's basically one larger area that it makes the best kind of habitat you want to have for wildlife and for people out there feeling like they're really in open space. They're not, coming between two little homes or between the commercial development. It's more of a feel of being out there. The open space shall be used for the following. They'll include, natural preserve area that it's just, open, undeveloped somewhat, passive recreation and active recreation. And the open space shall be dedicated to either the special district, a qualifying nonprofit entity, or another entity that has the ability and resources to administer and defend the open space for its intended purpose. So for perpetuity, this is open space. It can't decide after this to come back and fill it with homes. It's now, part of this conservation type of development. Housing requirements have been met. As I mentioned earlier, there's a variety of different housing products that are going to be provided in there. There's a variety of different housing types. They've got the larger half-acre size lots down to really tiny lots. They've got some that are accessed kind of a cluster through like an alleyway of sorts. And so with that, there's opportunity for affordable and attainable housing here where people are going to be able to finally maybe own a home. They've been wanting to do that and be able to enter and be part of the Elbert County community. So staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners find the following. The proposed preliminary plat is in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. The proposed preliminary plat meets all the criteria for approval in the Elbert County zoning regulations and the EC West Plan Unit development. The proposed preliminary plat meets the requirements of the Elbert County subdivision regulations, and the proposed preliminary plat will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners in the surrounding area. So Community and Development Services recommends the Board of County Commissioners recommend approval with 4 conditions for the EC West preliminary plat located southeast of County Road 29 and County Road 174, case PP-21026. And then on November 7th of 2023, the Planning Commission recommended approval with 4 conditions. And it again is located, as I had mentioned, and the conditions match what we have here in this case. So the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of the decision by the Board of County Commissioners. The preliminary plat shall not become effective until all fees are paid and conditions of approval are met. The developer must demonstrate that the Board of County Commissioners has approved the service plan for 1 or more metropolitan districts authorized to provide water within the plan boundary area no later than December 31st of 2024, or provide the county with a proposed financing plan demonstrating capacity to construct the water infrastructure and serve the community shown on the plan no later than July 1st, 2025. And the development guide agreement is completed and acceptable to the county attorney in final form. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you have any additional questions or want to
I have
hold?
none.
Okay. I think at this point I'd invite thank you. And then I would invite the applicant to present their matters, and I'm sure we'll have questions.
Would you like us to address your questions that you had for staff to elaborate on, or do you want to go through our presentation and then after the end we can kind of wrap that up into?
I think your presentation is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if we can get it pulled up here. Apparently I'm supposed to do something here.
Help is on the way.
We do have hard copies. We just had it up. Then just go to full screen. There we go. Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Jim Yates with Kraft Companies. I want to thank you for your time today. I'll start by introducing our team and then get into our overview of the presentation. We have Claire Havelda with Brownstein. She's our land use attorney here with us today. Bruce Lytle is with Lytle Water Solutions. He's our water engineer on the supply side. Dave Takeda is with MSK. He's our water engineer and wastewater engineer on the design permit operation side. Chris McGranahan with LSC Transportation. I think you know him. Andrew Knutson with Economic and Planning Systems. He'll help describe our economic impacts. Then we have Brian Hart and Susan Wade with Redland. Susan's our landscape architect planner, and Brian's our engineer of record. Maria Russo with ERO Resources, covering our environmental studies. And then Diane Miller, who is not here today, but she'll be presenting our district service plans on January 10th. So, as many of you know, Kraft Companies follows the basic tenets of a LID process, or low impact development. These principles include dark sky compliance, except where it may impact safety, such as high volume intersections, along with stormwater integration, walkability, and clustering of homes in tight-knit neighborhoods. Smart growth takes these concepts a step further, wrapping larger contiguous tracts of open space around the neighborhoods for easier access, integration of outdoor activities, wildlife corridors, and extensive trail systems. We continue to remain committed to dedicating 50% of our open space to integrate the rural character into the overall design. We've worked hard to design a community that is compatible but not identical to the surrounding areas, balancing the existing conditions with future needs identified in the county's master plan by using less water and less land per family while preserving more open space. Water conservation and water reuse are our cornerstones of our core principles. As you'll see later in the presentation, water reuse is integrated into the design up front and plays an important role in serving outdoor demands across the project. The reused water will be treated at the state's highest recommended level and piped back to the homes for outdoor watering. We will phase our development, starting with infrastructure and utilities over the next several years, bringing in residential lots thereafter, and our village center with amenities and light retail to closely follow. With our community outreach, we have held multiple community meetings with the area residents, including follow-up meetings with some of the Sun Country HOA members to discuss impacts, timing, and how we can work together. Additionally, we are actively involved in supporting local businesses, community organizations, and making impactful contributions to many nonprofits in the county. Lastly, we'll continue to work with the community service providers like Kiowa and Rattlesnake Fire Districts, Chamber of Commerce, Elizabeth School District, Sheriff's Department, and Elizabeth's Park and Rec. These organizations are important to build a great community and are critical to the overall health of the county. With that, I'll turn it over to Claire.
Thank you, Jim. I also am not super tall, so I'm going to try and bend that correctly. Can you all hear me okay? Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, commissioners, county staff, and members of the public. As Jim mentioned, my name is Claire Havelda, and I, with Matt Nielsen and Carolyn White, are the land use attorneys for the applicant Kraft Companies. And I just want to start off with thanking you for the opportunity to be here and present this application today. I know you've already had a long day, so I really appreciate it. We are here this afternoon to request that you approve our application for the rezone to the Planned Unit Development Zone District and the corresponding subdivision preliminary plat for the property known as EC West. This application proposes the rezoning of approximately 1,464 acres of undeveloped land in unincorporated Elbert County, located generally southeast of the intersection of County Road 29 and County Road 174. If approved, the application will permit the development of a conservation community with a total of up to 2,850 diverse home types across 2 villages. It will have 2 designated areas for potential commercial space and hundreds of acres of parks, trails, and open space. The project is anticipated to be built in phases over at least 20 years, and the development will benefit the existing, returning, and new county residents. We have also been working closely with the county staff and the county attorney on the related development agreement and Metro District service plans, and you will actually find the development agreement in your agenda packet. Additionally, we have complied with all published, posted, and mailed notice requirements for both the PUD and the subdivision preliminary plat applications. Today, we respectfully request that you approve the PUD and subdivision preliminary plat for EC West. As you know, a PUD zone district is custom zoning, created for a particular site, and incorporates standards and requirements unique to that site. We will show in this presentation how the customized requirements of the PUD support the rural atmosphere through the conservation community design. The preliminary plat is the first step in the subdivision process, in which the general layouts for the lots and the roadways are proposed. These conceptual outlines are then finalized through the final plats, where final engineering will be provided. I will now review the criteria for each of the PUD and the subdivision plat, and then our team will demonstrate how the application meets these criteria. So we'll start with the PUD criteria. As you've heard a number of times today, There are 6 criteria in your zoning regulations for approval of the PUD rezoning application, and they are shown on this slide. Our team will demonstrate throughout the presentation how the application meets each of these criteria: compliance and consistency with your comp plan, compatibility with surrounding land uses, how we won't have an adverse impact on the provision of public services, how we won't have an adverse impact on the environment, how there will not be unreasonable traffic congestion or burden to existing road systems, and how there will not be a detrimental effect to the health, safety, and welfare of your residents. So I want to spend a little time talking about the conservation community criteria. Elbert County subdivision regulation allows for 2 types of PUD subdivisions. The first is the conventional residential development, and the second is the conservation community, which is what we are looking at here. The primary difference in the conservation communities is that it locates housing in clustered units, which facilitates the preservation of large areas of common open space. And just a little aside here, I grew up in a farming community in western Kentucky, and I think your conservation communities are a really elegant solution to how to provide more diversity in your housing stock by really maintaining that agricultural community feel. I think that's really important. Also, while a conventional residential development only requires 40% open space, a conservation community requires at least 50% of the property be dedicated as parks, trails, wildlife habitats and corridors, landscaped areas, or other natural open space. As we will describe today, the project complies with all of the criteria shown on this slide, and by choosing to pursue the conservation community designation, the applicant has created a higher quality community that will provide greater open space and natural elements for Elbert County residents. So now let's talk about the preliminary plat criteria. In addition to review of the PUD, we are also seeking approval of the subdivision preliminary plat. The purpose of this preliminary review is to confirm whether the proposed preliminary plat meets the intent, policies, and goals of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan, zoning regulation, and subdivision regulations, and we will show that it does. The preliminary plat will depict the initial subdivision layout of EC West in accordance with the PUD. As shown on the next 2 slides, the criteria include ensuring that there's a provision of adequate water supply that is sufficient in terms of quantity, dependability, and quality, which includes a required water supply plan for 300-year aquifer lifespan, which has already been adjudicated and secured. Provision of public sewage and disposal systems. Provision of evidence showing that all hazardous soil or topographical conditions have been identified and that proposed uses are compatible with such conditions. Compliance with the requirements of the Elbert County subdivision regulations and zoning regulations, and of course, consistency with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. In addition to that, to those criteria shown on the slide, there are 2 overarching considerations not shown on the slide that every application must comply with. The first is consideration of whether this project is suitable for the community and the area in which it is proposed. For this, we look at things such as density, lot size, population, water use, water and sewer services, open space, and agricultural land. The second is whether the community and the area in which the project is proposed have the resources to support it. So this involves consideration of public services and infrastructure, including schools, roads, law enforcement, fire protection, and other public services. As we will show throughout this presentation, the project complies with all of the listed criteria for approval, as well as those overarching considerations. The project will integrate seamlessly with the surrounding community, provide amenities that benefit all Elbert County residents, and will provide and manage much of the needed public services. So now let's take a look at the vicinity map. This slide shows the general vicinity in which the project is located. EC West is in conformance with the comprehensive plan because the property is located in an area that the plan itself identifies for future population growth and subdivision. As you can see on the vicinity map, the EC West property is located generally southeast of the intersection of County Road 29 and County Road 174. The project's location is shown in light yellow on this slide. And as we will discuss in greater detail later in this presentation, the project will use rural smart growth management techniques to balance the rural character of the area with the needs of Elbert County's growing community. The project will preserve natural landscape and provide development that is similar to and consistent with the community character of the surrounding neighborhoods. Now, I really would like to take a look at compliance with the comprehensive plan. One of the main criteria for approval of both a PUD and a subdivision preliminary plat is that each conforms to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. The comprehensive plan divides its goals and policies into 5 topic areas, which we will review over the next 2 slides. These criteria are listed in the cover letter provided with this application, so we won't address all of them in detail here. Instead, we'll focus on some of the key components of the project that fulfill the criteria. So we'll start by looking at land use. First, the PUD will advance the comprehensive plan's land use goals and policies by providing for single-family detached and clustered single-family attached and multifamily housing, creating a variety of home sizes and price points. According to the most recent housing needs assessment and comprehensive plan, the county currently lacks this housing diversity, and that this project presents a unique opportunity to have the private sector deliver a wider variety of housing. By creating an increased diversity of housing types and densities, the project will help provide additional options for both current and future Elbert County residents. Additionally, the PUD will include 2 strategically selected locations for commercial, retail, and medical services that will feature efficient road access, easy visibility, water and sewer services, and will have topography favorable for commercial development. Now we'll look at community resources within the regulations of the comprehensive plan. The PUD will advance the comprehensive plan's community resource goals and policies and will ensure the project will benefit all Elbert County residents. In addition to providing 2 locations for much-needed commercial, retail, and medical services, the PUD also includes plans to support community services, including water, school, and fire. Through one or more of the special districts, the project will mitigate impacts on public services by financing the capital public improvements, including the development of new state-of-the-art water and wastewater facilities. Additionally, the project will support public safety services by including payment of fees or land dedication to support the local sheriff's department, fire protection districts, and public schools. Now let's look at how we're in alignment with the natural resources, economic development, and recreation and tourism components of the comprehensive plan. Starting with natural resources. As a conservation community, the PUD advances the comprehensive plan's natural resource goals and policies by focusing on environmental conservation and preservation. Without going through all of these, I want to highlight that the project will dedicate a minimum of 50% of the property as preserved open space. Because housing will be organized in clustered development patterns, this open space will be larger and more contiguous than it would be in a traditional development. This will provide enhanced opportunities for wildlife habitat and corridors, water conservation and recycling, and hundreds of contiguous acres of recreational trails and natural amenities. With regards to the economic development, this PUD also advances those goals and policies. The project will support the broader community and provide new job opportunities for Elbert County residents by providing 2 strategic locations for new commercial, medical, retail, and professional services. The project will also serve Elbert County's growing population and support the diverse housing needs of the community and future workforce by providing the mix of housing types and price points. In terms of recreation and tourism, in many ways that I've already mentioned, the project meets the recreation and tourism goals and policies by providing public access to all trails, parks, open space, and making these amenities available to all Elbert County residents, not just those that live in the EC West community. I'd like to talk now about the Elbert County Housing Needs Assessment that was done in 2022. We want to give some additional context to the housing portion of this project. As you know, in 2022, Elbert County conducted the Housing Needs Assessment to inform decision-making and long-term strategic planning for Elbert County on the topic of housing. The assessment recommended various approaches to broadly facilitate housing affordability in Elbert County, including but not limited to encouraging greater housing diversity and density. This project will help the county achieve its goals by providing a variety of single-family detached and clustered single-family attached and multifamily housing, creating a variety of home sizes and price points. The county currently lacks this housing diversity, and the project presents a unique opportunity to include it. The assessment also found deep housing scarcity, with less than 2% of housing inventory available for purchase or rent in Elbert County. Elbert County is experiencing slow but steady growth, with an estimated growth in population of 1.89% over 20 years. The growth is comparatively slower than other counties along the Front Range. And this project has adapted to that growth in its construction through phasing the development over at least 20 years. The idea is to keep development in line with population growth and not artificially accelerate it. Even before the recent 2022 Housing Needs Assessment, Elbert County recognized the need to diversify its housing stock. The 2009 update to the comprehensive plan specifically suggested that development of more than 320 units should provide more than one housing type, such as townhomes, patio homes, duplexes, etc., and opportunities for all ages and a variety of incomes to live in Elbert County. What housing diversity does, it allows for things like aging in place, first-time home buyers being able to get into the housing market, intergenerational living in close proximity. And these are exactly the opportunities that EC West will provide. One of the PUD approval criteria is compatibility with surrounding land uses. By definition, compatible refers to two things that are not the same but can coalesce in harmony next to each other. Residences in EC West will be developed in manageable clustered groupings with large open space buffers surrounding them. This will help the county achieve the type of density and diversity the county code, the comp plan, the housing needs assessment all ask for, while still maintaining the rural character of the area. So this slide is our EC West, gives an overview, that 20,000-foot overview of the project. So let's pull back for a moment and look at it. The application proposes rezoning 1,464 acres. The project will be a mixed-use conservation community, include a total of up to 2,850 homes across 2 villages, 2 designated areas for potential commercial and retail uses, and hundreds of acres of parks, trails, and open space. As defined in your zoning regulations, conservation communities are characterized by large amounts of common open space and clustered compact lots. A minimum of 50% of the property will be preserved as open space to provide a rural aesthetic in keeping with the natural landscape of the county. The project is anticipated to be built in a phase over at least 20 years. At full build-out, the project is estimated to have approximately 7,500 residents. We also want to highlight how including metropolitan districts and regional infrastructure improvements will ensure that the project will not adversely impact the provisions of public services or infrastructure. The project will supply its own state-of-the-art water and wastewater systems and will involve the formation of one or more metropolitan districts to provide public services. As we will discuss later in the presentation, the project has an adjudicated and sustainable 300-year water supply, meeting the county's requirements. Finally, the project will also provide for payment of fees and/or land dedication to offset any impacts to fire, police, school, and other municipal services. Additionally, road improvements will be constructed throughout the phase development and will include improvements to County Road 29 and 174 that will benefit both residents of EC West and the greater Elbert County community. Access points from existing county roads, internal collector streets, and internal local roads will allow for efficient transportation to and through the community. So let's take a look at the PUD plan. The application seeks to rezone the property from agricultural to planned unit development. The PUD zoning would allow for that mix of residential, commercial, and retail uses, as well as the parks and open space, potential school sites, community services for police, fire, and medical. The project will be divided into 2 villages, each containing 3 planning areas. Village 1, located on the western third of the property, is shown in the medium green on the left side of the map. This will include 780 to 1,015 attached and detached single-family and multifamily units. It will also include 12 to 30 acres of commercial services, which may include such uses as daycares, hair salon, restaurants, fire and police stations, or other public services. Village 2, located on the eastern 2/3 of the property, shown in the light green on the map, will include 1,160 to 1,835 attached and detached single-family and multifamily units, along with up to 10 acres of potential commercial services. Both villages will reflect similar character with a mix of residential housing types and a commercial center for each. Development will occur in phasing, with the construction beginning with Village 1 on the western side of the property and working eastward to Village 2. Utilities, internal road infrastructure, and roadway access improvements from County Road 29 and 174 will also be constructed in the same phased manner. The map shown here and in the rezone exhibit provided in the application are intended to depict general locations and illustrate the development conceptually. The final road alignments and configuration of lots and tracks and other details of the development will be proposed by the applicant and approved by the county during the platting process. So now let's take a look at the Planned Unit Development Guide. The PUD application includes the PUD Development Guide, which establishes the regulatory framework and development standards for the project. The PUD guide's development standards include, but are not limited to, permitted land uses, densities, minimum lot sizes, setbacks, and permitted building heights. The guide includes standards for all types of development within the PUD, including residential, commercial, parks and open space, infrastructure, landscaping, signage, and lighting. By imposing these regulatory standards on all development in EC West, the PUD guide will ensure that the project's conservation community character is achieved over the course of phased development. The PUD guide ensures the preservation of a minimum of 50% of the property being dedicated for parks, trails, and open space. It ensures clustered development of residential and commercial uses, resulting in a more efficient use of land that is more consistent with a rural character. It will conserve natural resources, including the community's water supply. It will support dark sky goals by imposing lighting standards that limit light pollution. And it will establish large buffers to adjacent land uses to help preserve rural character and minimize impacts on adjacent properties, as well as provide opportunity for connection with future space on adjacent properties. Looking at the preliminary plat plan, as shown on this map, the preliminary plat reflects the goals of the PUD by providing a mix of residential housing options integrated with commercial and retail services and hundreds of acres of trails, parks, and open space. The plat also reflects the clustered development patterns in contiguous areas of open space designed to follow the natural topography of the property. These elements are unique to EC West as a conservation community. The yellow area on these maps show the anticipated location of residential uses. The red areas depict the 2 commercial centers. And finally, the 2 purple areas depict the potential school sites. We don't want to forget those. And the 2 green areas depict natural open space and enhanced landscaping that will be included along parkway collector roads throughout the community. Celebrating the natural habitat of Elbert County is really at the heart of this project. And these clustered development patterns will achieve Elbert County's rural smart growth goals. So let's talk about parks, trails, and open space for a little bit. As a conservation community, the project will not have adverse impacts on the surrounding areas or on the land itself. The project will include hundreds of acres dedicated to parks, trails, and open space. Importantly, these amenities will be accessible to all Elbert County residents, not just those living within the community. The open space amenities will be designed to follow the natural contours and minimize grading and land disturbance. Existing natural prairie grass on property will be maintained and revegetated where disturbed to preserve that natural landscape character. The open space will also preserve drainage patterns and create natural corridors for wildlife habitats and migration patterns. The PUD and preliminary plat will use natural landforms to guide development, and natural habitats will be restored and reestablished following construction. As shown, I think we're in the next slide. Thank you. As shown on the map in red, blue, and purple lines, regional open space and maintenance trails will meander throughout the community. The darker areas shown in brown, orange, and light yellow represent the proposed neighborhood parks, pocket parks, and native trail nodes. Trails will not only provide recreational benefit, but will also facilitate easy access to parks, amenity spaces, neighborhoods, and commercial uses. To the extent possible, Craft will also plan to work with the Elizabeth Parks and Recreation Department to connect trails regionally to existing trail infrastructure. As a conservation community, the goal is not to just dedicate 50% of the property to open space, but rather to really create an integrated system that combines natural habitat buffers and recreational uses with residential uses and commercial amenities that anchor the project. It is now my pleasure to introduce Bruce Lytle of Lytle Water Solutions. Bruce will provide an overview of the project's previously adjudicated 300-year water supply and state-of-the-art water and wastewater reuse systems.
Thank you, Claire. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Bruce Lytle. It's L-Y-T-L-E, Lytle Water Solutions. We are water resources engineers for the applicant. And so I'm going to just give you a quick overview of the water supply system for EC West. The water is going to be provided through the Denver Basin Aquifer System. That water has all been adjudicated. One of the aspects of this property is that the dividing line between the Kiowa-Bijou designated groundwater basin goes right through the property, and so there was a little bit more work that had to be done to adjudicate this water because the western portion of the property is outside the basin, so that water was adjudicated in Division I Water Court, whereas the eastern side of the property, being inside the designated basin, was adjudicated by the Colorado Groundwater Commission. So same rules apply. There's 300-year supply is what we are targeting as required by Elbert County. And because the development will be phased over 20 years or more, the initial development is targeting the deeper aquifers, generally either the Arapahoe Aquifer or the Arapahoe may be supplemented by the Denver Aquifer. And I'll talk about that a little more in just a minute, because we don't believe there will be any adverse effect on residential wells because of the development of these deeper aquifers. And one of the good things about the Denver Basin Aquifer System is that that water is fully reusable to extinction, and EC West has developed a very innovative reuse system that I'll show you here in just a minute, so that all of that water, once it's pumped out of the ground, is used and reused until it's all gone. So it's a very efficient system, and it minimizes the first use of water. So in other words, it minimizes the amount of water that has to be pumped out of the Denver Basin aquifers. So with that, we are pioneering levels of reuse and conservation to minimize that water use.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is the amount of water that has been adjudicated. And as you can see here in this table, all of this water has been approved either by the Water Court or by the Groundwater Commission. And so you can see where it's broken up between outside the designated basin and inside the designated basin. But overall, there's approximately 1,796 acre-feet of water per year that's been approved for use under the statutory requirements of Colorado. But if you look at the bottom, of course, the statutory use in Colorado is based on a 100-year life. And so to get to the 300-year life or the 300-year rule, we take that amount and divide it by 3, which results in about 600 acre-feet of water annually available from the Denver Basin aquifers. And right now, based on the maximum potable use, and I'll emphasize the word maximum because in some of the slides you just saw, there's a range of units that may be developed. But assuming that maximum unit of 2,850 units, the maximum potable demand is around 550 acre-feet per year. So one of the things that I wanted to show is where I mentioned where the development is going to look at drilling and producing water from the deeper aquifers, is that each of these Denver Basin aquifers are hydraulically distinct. And what that means is that if you drill a well into the Arapahoe, it doesn't affect water levels in the Denver. And likewise, if you drill a well in the Denver, it doesn't affect water levels in the Dawson aquifer. The reason for that is because the Denver Basin geologically is a very interbedded system, and so there are relatively thick shale sequences between each of these aquifers, and that, in fact, is how the state engineer's office has delineated these aquifers by identifying these continuous shale zones that separate one aquifer from another. And so it's an important consideration because there is not communication between these aquifers. And in fact, what's up on the screen right now is an even simpler depiction of these aquifers, because within each of the aquifers, there's also multiple water-bearing zones. So we just completed an Arapahoe well, and there were actually about 8 different water-bearing zones in the Arapahoe, each of them separated by a shale within that area that's shown as the Arapahoe. So not only do you have these thick shale sequences that separate the aquifers, but you also have a number of non-water-bearing shales within the aquifer. So water in these aquifers really is moving horizontally. It does not move vertically to any measurable extent. So it's very important that when you look at the residential wells, maybe in the surrounding areas, that with the development of these deeper wells, there won't be any hydraulic connection between these wells. In other words, we won't be affecting water levels or the ability of those wells to produce water. So I want to touch on one of the commissioners had a question about the reuse system and how this is going to work at EC West. So if you look at the lower left-hand corner, that would be the first use water. That's the wells that will be drilled into the Denver Basin. Those wells will be used solely to produce water. That water will then be treated at the water purification facility and delivered to the homes. So the water that is coming directly out of the Denver Basin aquifers will only be used for potable in-house uses. And as we all know, the consumptive use inside a home is very low. Most of the water that goes into your home ends up going back out of your home to a wastewater system. And that's what's going to happen here, and that's the brown line coming out of the homes. That water all goes to a water reclamation facility where that water will be treated to the standards required for discharge. But this water won't be discharged other than a very small amount that does have to be discharged to meet relinquishment requirements under the law for Denver Basin water. But virtually all of the water that comes out of that water reclamation facility will be delivered into irrigation ponds. And the ponds are necessary because the wastewater plant is going to be operating year-round. Houses generate wastewater 365 days a year. So that effluent will be generated 365 days a year, but yet the irrigation season, as we all know, may be 7 months of the year. And so the water gets delivered into the irrigation ponds where it either is stored or it goes into what we call the purple pipe system. So this is a full water reuse system. So all outdoor landscaping, residential, commercial, open space, parks, everything that's outdoor landscaping will be serviced by this non-potable irrigation system. So the irrigation ponds will manage that water through the wintertime, and then that water can be used along with water that is actually generated during the irrigation season to meet this non-potable irrigation demands. And so we've done the water balance on this system, and there's more than enough water that is generated through the water reclamation facility to meet all outside demands. So not only is this a very efficient system that uses all of this water to extinction, but it also helps minimize how much water has to be produced out of the Denver Basin aquifers. So we are conserving as much water as possible of water that is actually pumped from the aquifer system. And with that, I will turn it back to Chris. Sure.
I got to the mic. I was on County Road 29 and 174 last night after dark, and there looked like there was a very large water drilling rig out there at that time, lights on and everything. Is that drilling a well for you?
Yes, that's correct. That's an Arapahoe aquifer well that we're just completing right now.
Hello, my name is Chris McGranahan. I'm with LSC Transportation Consultants. I'm actually the president of the company. I've got nearly 30 years of experience. I'm going to talk a little about the transportation plan and traffic impact. So the criteria for the transportation is that the proposed PUD will not create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. We verify that through the use of a traffic study. On the left here, you see an excerpt from the Elbert County Master Transportation Plan, which was recently approved just 2 years ago. That was our original guiding document for the Master Traffic Study. We completed this slide actually shows the three roadways there in the middle, CR 178, 13, and 174, which were recently built or improved west of our project. Those are the types of improvements that will go on in the county over time as development occurs. That bottom bullet point suggests that there's a potential connection of 174 between CR 21 and CR 29 with adjacent development. Next slide. Now I'll talk briefly about our traffic impact analysis. We originally coordinated with county staff on what this study would look like, as it's quite large. The study area actually includes pretty much everything on this map. So we looked at 25, 30 plus intersections in this study. We initially completed a technical memorandum to submit to staff. We wanted to make sure that the county was comfortable with what our study was going to look like, so we submitted a technical memorandum. We took the feedback from that memorandum and completed the traffic study. That traffic study has now been accepted with no further comments at this time. But what I want to acknowledge and make sure everyone's comfortable with is that over time, this project will complete phase-by-phase traffic studies. Hard to say how big those will be, but usually it's about 200 to 400 homes per phase. So those phases will be accompanied by a traffic study that's more detailed than this master is to help us determine if there's turn lanes, widening, traffic control enhancements, things of that nature. Next slide. Now I'd like to hand it over to my colleague Andrew Knutson to talk about the economic and fiscal impact of the project.
Thank you, Chris. Andrew Knutson, Managing Principal with Economic and Planning Systems. We have 6 slides for you today. outlining the economic and fiscal benefit of the project to Elbert County. The purpose is to quantify expenditures, net them against revenues, and ultimately identify a net position for the county. You can see the four revenue sources that are primarily going to be the primary sources: property tax, sales tax, use tax, impact fees, as well as the expenditures there in the lower left part of the slide. These ultimately are applied to the development program shown on the right, and we've got the residential, just over 2,800 units, and the commercial, just under 160,000 square feet of commercial. And based on current valuation, 2023 values, we have $1.7 billion worth of assessed value in the project at build-out. Wrong direction, thank you. In terms of revenues, we have case studies on each of these four different revenue sources, and they will generate $4.6 million at full build-out, and that's an annualized figure that runs in perpetuity. These break down over the course of build-out from 2025 through 2040. Property taxes will initially be low in the early years, right around 86,000, growing to 4.1 million annually. The sales tax is about $500,000, and that reflects the expenditure potential within the project applied to the current retail landscape in the county. As that retail inventory grows, capture will increase, and that figure will go up. This is just a conservative amount, a conservative estimate based on the existing retail configuration and the amount of supply in the county today. In addition to these ongoing revenues, we have one-time revenues in the form of use tax that's paid at time of permit, $7.6 million, and impact fees, $22.8 million. All revenues are shown in 2023 dollars, and they're constant throughout the analysis. These revenues are depicted graphically here. You can see the one-times ramp up and are quite concentrated in the 5 to 10 year period when the bulk of the development activity is occurring. The sales tax and property tax grow gradually over time and peak at the end, and that's where we get that $4.5 million annually in that 2040 year at build-out. On the expenditures, what we've done is built a model that takes the existing county fiscal structure and applies it to the projected use. We have a nexus to growth factor, and some parts of the county, some services of the county, it's a very direct nexus. In other words, the services and the demand for services will be a correlation exactly to what the population is now. Other parts of the county, in terms of the program, like administration, treasurer, community development, what have you, it works as an economy of scale, and some of those departments can absorb growth without a one-to-one increase in staffing. We've applied these nexus to growth factors to all of the funds, and you can see the anticipated expenditures over the course of build-out from 25 to 40. The general fund ranges from about $40,000 a year up to $1.8 million annually. Road and Bridge is a case study based on the actual lane miles constructed by the project, so it's fairly modest. There's a lot of lane miles in this project. However, a majority of them, vast majority of them, are private, internal to the project, built by the Metro District, maintained by the Metro District. That's why this number is relatively modest, because there's not that many new lane miles coming into county jurisdiction. The Human Services Special Revenue Fund grows from about $4,000 up to just under $200,000, and the Sales and Use Tax Special Revenue Fund goes from $10,000 up to $500,000 over the course of the project. Again, all revenues are shown in constant dollars. We've got all of this data depicted graphically on the final two slides, but what we're showing is $4.6 million in annual revenues, 2.6 in expenditures, net positive of $2 million annually, and those are fungible dollars that the county can choose to spend where it would like. These are the revenues, and these are our four different fund programs within the county, and we're using the same scale as we did in the initial graphic, so you can see these expenditures are relatively lower relative to revenues. On this graphic, we combine the two, and the dark blue are positive, those are the revenues, the gray are the expenditures, and the line is the net condition. And we've shown this as a continuation. We're anticipating build out in 2040, and the graph shows the following 5 years as a stabilized revenue source. One last point I would make is that property tax is one of the most stable sources you can find. We do a lot of fiscal economic analysis for a lot of different jurisdictions, and a lot of municipalities in particular are heavy on the sales tax. In this case, vast majority of the revenue is coming from property tax. That's stable, and you can see that $2 million annually in net positive revenues will run in perpetuity.
Okay, just kind of following up on the community services component, and maybe I'll touch a little bit on the fire district overlap. We have met with and continue to meet with the 2 fire districts, Rattlesnake and Kiowa. They are, they're not overlapping, but they both are over the project. And we've met with multiple times, both fire districts. They have I believe it's a mutual aid, but it's something of that sort agreement between them already. Rattlesnake is they have a station just to our north in Sun Country community, and Kiowa has somewhat of a substation that's not manned at the end of 174 and Kiowa Bennett Road, approximately. So we have allocated space to build facilities, whether that is a new fire station, a training station, police station. We'll continue to hold that, but currently both fire districts believe that they can serve us best from their existing facilities, and they'll make improvements to those facilities, whether that's adding equipment or adding rooms for firemen and women to stay. Obviously, that's their decision to do that. So we feel that we're in good shape with the fire districts, and they'll kind of manage how they back each other up and respond, and first respond, second responders. The schools, we have dedicated 2 sites. We've met with the school. This is Elizabeth School District, by the way. We've met with the superintendent. We've met with a number of folks with the district, and they basically help select these particular sites. They've kind of signed off on them. We'll continue to hold those sites until they figure out in their long-term planning what they want to build and where. Conceptually, there is a high school site and a middle school, elementary school site. Not saying that they're going to build those schools, but those facilities and the land for that is available. And then lastly, been working with county staff on putting our infrastructure within the community. I think we noted this earlier, but we are going to own the right-of-way, the road, the storm system, basically everything internal to the project will be owned by and dedicated to our district. So when we say privately owned, it'll be our district that ultimately owns and maintains those roads. They will be built and maintained to county standards. We're not asking for any variances in that regard. And so we're just finalizing that. That's part of our development agreement. So ultimately, when that gets signed, then we'll have that as a commitment, and we're making that commitment now. So I guess the other thing, just to kind of point out, we are working really well with Elizabeth Park and Rec District at Independence. We're working with them on having their service to help maintain our internal parks and trails, and we are paying them for that service. That is not part of the mill levy that we pay to them. And we'll probably do something similar in EC West. They have some projects around the area. They don't necessarily connect quite to our borders yet, but that's something that we're working on, and how we can kind of enhance the broader facilities that the Park and Rec District own and maintain. And then we're bringing in technology. We've got a lot of dark fiber along Kiowa Bennett Road. We'll pull that up. We'll definitely be able to bring in more fiber and more technology to the regional area there. With that, I'll give it back to Claire.
Thanks, Jim. And I just have a little bit more for those of you that are ready for this to be wrapped up. As you've seen in this presentation, the application meets or exceeds all criteria in the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan and zoning regulations for approval of a PUD. The proposed PUD aligns with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comp Plan. It's compatible with surrounding land uses. The project reflects the development patterns and preservation of natural habitats common in the surrounding areas. It will not adversely impact the provision of public services. The project will include formation of one or more of the metro districts that Jim just spoke about to finance and construct necessary public capital improvements, and that will also involve paying impact fees or dedicating lands to public services, including the local school and fire protection districts. We will not have an adverse environmental impact. As a conservation community, the preservation of natural habitat and resources is central to the heart of this project, and the project has been designed in accordance with those principles. We will not create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. As it builds out, the project will include improvements to the existing county roads 29 and 174. And internal roads will be designed in a manner that will facilitate efficient vehicular travel within and around EC West. We will not otherwise be detrimental to health, safety, or welfare of present or future residents of Elbert County. The project has been designed to provide amenities and public services that will benefit the health, safety, and welfare of all existing, returning, and new residents of your county. The project meets the conservation community criteria. As you've seen in this application, the parcel meets the minimum 80-acre size requirement for the subdivision. At least 50% is dedicated to the open space for benefits of all residents. The project will involve creation of one or more of the special districts to manage those public services, resources, and open space amenities and maintain them. All parcels, tracts, and lots in the land area will be legally created and platted. The application complies with all other applicable state and local regulations, including Elbert County Comp Plan, zoning regs, and subdivision regs. Very briefly, the project also meets the subdivision preliminary plat criteria. The proposed subdivision preliminary plat provides for the adequate 300-year water supply that is sufficient in terms and quantity and dependability and quality. It provides adequate public sewage disposal system, and by forming those special districts to develop a new state-of-the-art water and wastewater facility, we aren't burdening Elbert County or the existing infrastructure. The plat also provides evidence that all area of the project which may present hazards or require special precautions have been identified, and that proposed land uses are compatible with such conditions. As a conservation community, the project will foster a balance between natural and developed environments and will include a hazard mitigation plan and will preserve a minimum of 50% open space for wildlife habitat, water conservation and recycling, and recreational trails and amenities. The plat complies with all of the requirements of the Elbert County subdivision regulations and zoning regulations. And finally, it is consistent with the intent, policies, and goals of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. So as we have repeatedly shown, the proposed PUD and subdivision preliminary plat comply with all relevant county regulations and criteria for approval. We respectfully request that you approve the PUD and the subdivision preliminary plat, and we are available for any questions you may have. And before I forget, if I could offer the slides that you have seen into the record. Thank you.
Yes, they'll be brought in. Appreciate that. I know I talked through the sequence of hearings was generally the same, whether it's an SUR, rezone, subdivision. I am adding a step at this time. We're going to take a 10-minute comfort break. So before we move into Q&A and open for public comment. So it's 3:30. We'll we're in recess, and we'll come back at 3:40. Thank you. Ready? We'll get going.
That's why she didn't come after that.
All righty. It is 3:44, and we're back in session. So kind of in our sequence, we've heard from staff, we've heard from the applicant. We will open shortly for public comment, but I believe we have some questions from the table. But we'll likely hold quite a few of them until we've heard what public concerns may be. But I would like to start with really, we were presented maximum density of 2,850 homes and a range that started at 1940. So a range of homes that's larger than some of our towns. I just kind of would like to kind of walk through what would be what would drive the low end, what would drive the high end, and then in terms of consideration for approval, are you asking for a maximum density, and what are the probabilities of hitting maximum density? That, if you could speak to that.
Yes, this is Jim Yates for the record. So there are a number of variables in that, and we worked pretty closely with staff for probably 6 months or so on what those ranges look like and what is impacting them. At a high level, there's two kind of competing uses for the land. One is residential and one is non-residential. And so I think you also heard some ranges on the commercial side as well. And so, again, to the extent that the commercial is well received and we are able to promote that and push that forward, then that will reduce, the developable land for housing. Within the residential housing, we have what we think are products that range from, half acre, we'll call them estate type lots, to pretty standard lots that you'll see in Independence, which have 60, 70, or 80-foot fronts to them and depths somewhere between 110, 130 feet. We think that's pretty dead on. As we look at other products that are, we definitely believe in kind of some active adult, patio homes, main floor masters, those kinds of things. We think that'll be very well received as well. We're talking to groups that do independent living all the way up to some type of senior care. As we get into those types of products, that's where we kind of push that upper end because they're a little bit higher density. There's a little bit of townhome product in there. We have some sites that we think can fit, but again, those townhomes aren't going to be kind of what you would see maybe in a more urban setting where they're 12, 14, 18 to an acre. These are more like 6 or 8 to an acre, and they typically have ranch plans on the end caps and then 2 or 3 units in the middle, and they're going to be clustered not as larger groups. So kind of a long way of saying that there's a mix of products. As we get up to the more dense products, that's kind of where we're, try to give the staff some insight into 1950 is very reasonable on the land that we have. We can bring in some other products and try to bring that down, and it's likely we will have most of those products. It's just how many of those additional products.
Thank you for that. And the other, I know you had discussed a 20-year build-out. Again, on that range of homes. I mean, at the higher end, like I said, I think this past year we issued about 150 building permits in the unincorporated part of the county. At the higher end, that's 19 or 20 years if you started today. But obviously, there are other large subdivisions, Independence being one, Spring Valley, that are also still building out. So Do you see in that, I mean, if you're looking at a 20-year time horizon, are you looking at a increased absorption rate in the county, or is that best hopes for a developer to finish this project while knowing that others are out there? I mean, it feels like this would be more than a 20-year build-out.
It very well can be more than a 20-year build-out, and especially if you take it from today forward, because it'll take us 18 to 24 months to put in water, wastewater, the initial roads, get some lots developed. I guess how I view that as far as absorption is it'll be a slow ramp up. We'll build models. We'll kind of start establishing that sense of place. We'll start putting in some of the bones of the non-residential pieces, which I would classify as convenience retail. So it's things that would support the area, not destination, big box type stuff. And then at least as we view Independence, I speak more directly to that, it's going to be winding down as this ramps up. There's certainly somewhere down the road some overlap of that a couple years down the road, but one's going to fall off and the other's going to kind of replace it for some sense. It's certainly possible between the few projects that are out there that it's going to inflate, say between 5 years from now and 10 years or 15 years from now. But I think it's going to stay kind of in that pretty steady ramp. It feels like a lot, but we're going to develop this as 20, 30, 40 acres at a time. We're not going in and dropping in infrastructure that's going to sit there for 20 years before a house gets built on it. So it's going to have a good phased approach to it. We're designing our water, wastewater for that very purpose as well, and that's kind of, I think, on the economic impacts, that's why you see that, ramp up on that.
I did appreciate during the presentation, I think the comment was made that the build-out was to address the need, not to generate need or generate growth, but to address it as it occurred. So I guess I don't have any other questions myself at this time. I just wanted to kind of put out there that for the county, this is the first time since Bandera, which became Independence, was initially approved in 2008, that we've had the application for a substantial subdivision of this type, starting from ground zero. So there's a lot of things that we've worked over the years with Spring Valley and Independence, where much of it was already baked in or was decades or earlier. So just kind of setting that tone of, we probably have a lot of questions, and I know the community will as well. But I'd turn it over to my fellow commissioners now, and then for any initial questions, and then we'll open for public comment.
Just have two quick ones. One's just a comment, one is a question. So I would like to look at the slide again that had the water adjudication table, if we can find that. My math wasn't as quick as the slide was. But while you're looking for that, a question with the community services aspect of it, talking about a sheriff's substation or something like that. I'd like to see a little bit more detail, maybe working with staff, expand more than just a sheriff's substation, but maybe a small a place for other county services. Thinking particularly like motor vehicle, health and human services, some of those services that we offer that people having to travel all the way to Kiowa to receive. If we had a location for some of those, I think that would be advantageous as we move forward talking about that. So it's more of a comment than anything.
Understood. And again, I think from our land planning perspective, we set aside this approximate 10-acre parcel for whatever those services are. It's not so much on a first come, first served basis, but we initially talked to fire and police about that as referral agencies. But yes, if there are any ideas, on the county or other agencies that could benefit by either the land or some kind of a shared facility, we think that'd be great. The closer to the community we can have services, the happier we are with that.
Okay. That's great. I appreciate that. And so, looking at this estimated maximum demand of 548 and the 598 sustainable supply, is the 598 including the upper basins also with that?
Yes, that is correct. It includes all of our water supplies.
So you'll have to help me. If we take the 598 minus the 68 and the 70, that gets us below the 548 demand.
It does. Now, the one thing I'll say, and we spoke to this a little bit at Planning Commission, the 548 is very unlikely to exceed 500. It includes assumptions such as 0.2 acre feet per home, plus in the full 2850. At Independence, we're running lower than 0.18, 0.17. So we're very conservative in that number. And I would just say this, that we are, with each plat, we have to bring in what we use and what we, once that kind of goes away with the plat, then we only have whatever's remaining. So as we get towards the end, those plats will vary. And the non-residential piece is kind of a big unknown. It's in there, but we don't know what kind of users, so we would be limited from using high-use water users if that was the case, bringing that in. So there's kind of a check and balance as we go through all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick couple of them. One is that 1,800, that includes the lower Dawson, and I'm hoping that isn't ever used in there, because in Independence, they agreed that they would only go Denver, Arapahoe, and perhaps Laramie, Fox Hills. But my question really is phases. When you said 20 acres at a time, would that 20 acres be a phase? And does that include the open space?
It would not include the open space, no. So I kind of gave a range of 20, 30, 40 acres. There will be more up front when we build our water facility, a wastewater facility, things like that. But we are not going to be bringing in, 300, 400 unit plats.
So you're talking about 25 to 30 phases?
Probably, yes. Over 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah. So, excuse me, at this point, we'll open for public comment. I think based on timing and the number of folks in the room, we'll have that opportunity to get through. I had several folks that signed in. Based on the number of people and the number signed in, are there people that did not sign in that would like to speak? We'll kind of recognize those first and then roll into that list. So, Mr. Lewis, I think you had put your hand up first. Name and address, and we'd like to keep comments to 3 minutes. This is really...
Bob Lewis, Buttercup Road, Elizabeth, Colorado. So as I looked at that, there was a couple questions I came up with. One is water. And another is, what is your fire prevention plan? So we've got an area that has clustered homes surrounded by what's been described as natural grasses, so natural fauna. Please address how you're going to make sure over time that we don't have under unusual circumstances, we might get high winds and dry and dry brush around these clusters, and you could have a martial fire circumstance. Now, I believe that in that circumstance, the community had allowed that land to go feral, and that contributed. But what are you going to do in your plan to resolve that? When we did Independence on the water, we had the developer went to great lengths to explain how they were going to isolate the specific aquifers they were drawing from. And I'd like you to address that. There are some metro districts in the county that are actually drawing from the Dawsons, where it would have been better if they'd used the lower aquifers to avoid competition with the neighbors. In this case, you've got 400 and some wells immediately to the north of you. And what steps are you going to take to engineer those wells so you won't be competing there? And in addition to that, there are a lot of homes out there in that area that are on the Denver that were built a little later in the last decade. And so in order to get the so-called domestic privileges, they had to go down to the Denver. Do you have a number on those wells? Have you considered the impact? And thank you very much to the commissioners and the applicant.
Thank you. And as we roll through this, we will collect the issues that have been brought forward and then ask for them to be all addressed at the end, sir.
First, can I ask you guys, what do you do with our information? Do you pass it to them? When we all talk, what's the point of it?
What is the point of it?
Yes.
To raise issues and concerns, and once we have everybody's concerns on the table, we will ask staff or the applicant as appropriate to address them.
Okay. I'm going to start off. My name is Mike Walker. I'm on Forest Trail. I'm recently retired, 38 years from the city and county of Denver. I retired as a subject matter expert in driving. Okay, I disagree with your traffic studies you did, because they don't take into account the real world driving. One of your criteria is, it even says, so it doesn't cause extra traffic on the roads, one of your criteria. They says they're following that. I'm going to bring up on 29, there's no going to be turn lanes, deceleration lanes, or acceleration lanes. Is there going to be a turn lane on there? The reason before that, how many cars do you need for an accident? One, okay? And most of the people that are in accidents is because they're distracted. Many things fall because of that, and we've all been there. So the traffic numbers, they don't even know when they're going to address that on 29. It's kind of vague. There's no threshold there that says, well, after so many cars, we're going to build this. It's up to them, and who knows when it's going to be. We have another developer who didn't do what he said he was going to do. He didn't build the roads he said he was going to build. I question, when are they going to build these roads? Let's pick Highway 86. It belongs to the state of Colorado. How many turn lanes do you see there? How many acceleration and deceleration lanes do you see there? I think everybody came out here. The Burnco, they had those in before that thing was even built. How many homes are being built in there? They built it because it's safe, right? It's safe. So for them to say they're going to build it whenever, that's not safe. You only need 2 cars to be on an accident. If you look at Elbert County statistics for accidents, rear-ended is one of them, which amazes me out here. So I'm concerned of them saying they're going to do it sometime. We don't know when that is. With previous experience, they could not do it.
Thank you, sir.
Does the wells have to have a meter? Are you doing meters on your wells?
Sir, we'll have that question asked.
Huh?
We'll have them answer that
Okay.
question at the end.
Well, because they can mix them. Are you going to mix them?
Sir, the comments are to us. We'll make sure the
Okay.
answer is a question.
Are they going to mix the wells into one, because they're having 2 separate wells? So it's 600 per each well. Mixing them would change things, I believe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Did we have, Mr. Howell, I think you had your hand up?
Commissioners, staff, everybody, thank you for being here. I just want to say a few things, and I will play off of that too as well. So the traffic analysis plan appears to exceed expectations more than what I expected. I would definitely like to make sure to see that there are some turn lanes off at 29, and I'm sure that's something that we can see happen. I don't want to slow down that corridor. It's already kind of slow. And then reading the previous study, the Denver Basin has ample water supply for Elbert County's future as long as it's carefully maintained. And it looks like there's a state-of-the-art water system to handle this additional cluster development. I'm very happy about that. And during this process, I've had the opportunity to meet with several builders and meet with several developers. But there have been a lot of developers that have come into the county over the years that didn't quite meet my expectations. But I will say that the amount of work they've done on Independence is truly impressive. I had no idea it was going to be that way, and I'm very impressed with that. The fiscal economic impact is tremendously important to the county revenue. We either need to bring in huge employers or also developments like this to be able to support the levels of service that we all enjoy. The alternative to that would be to raise taxes. And to slam the gate, it just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Also, I'm a business person, and seeing this come in, I mean, it opens up new opportunities for me to work in the county and not travel so much outside the county. Enhanced response times, technology and equipment upgrades to EMS, better infrastructure, I'm all for that. And I'm very impressed with what's been put together here. It aligns with the county's goals. Some would argue there's a potential for economic impacts, but at least 50% open space seems like that would definitely mitigate that. And then, I mean, that's pretty much it. I want to say, though, that I have had the opportunity to meet with several builders and with this developer, and I'm quite impressed with what they've done in the county so far.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did we have anybody else that did not sign up that would like to speak? Okay, I'll go to the list. Valerie Camera.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for all the presentation that you put together. That was quite thorough. I am not a resident of Elbert County, not because I don't want to be. My husband and I looked for homes here, and there is a true housing scarcity. We could not find anything, so we finally found a house, and my husband now commutes more than 40 miles to work and more than 40 miles back from work every day. He is in law enforcement. It would be really wonderful if we could find a home in Elbert County. That was our hope. And hopefully at some point we will be able to find one here. In the meantime, I just wanted to say thank you for your consideration, and I hope that you do approve this project. It would really make a difference to the first responders, to healthcare workers, to our law enforcement, to be able to have a home that is affordable in this amazing county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Shelley Manning.
Hello, everyone. So my background, I'm a third-generation Colorado lady on my mom's side. She was born and raised on a farm in Fort Morgan. I've lived both city and rural lifestyles in large and small towns. Recently, I was living in Douglas County, but I had to find a home for me and my pups due to the sale of the property where we were living. Looking for a place to live and looking at different homes, I chose to live in Douglas County or Elbert County because I'm a conservative and wanted to be with like-minded people. I found 2 homes I really liked, one being in Douglas County and the other being in Elbert County. I chose the one in Elbert County and moved into my home with my pups at the end of April, so I haven't been here that long. That's when I heard about a group of people here that did not want all the growth coming into the county. Well, I'm one of those people who moved to one of those neighborhood communities since I found my home in Independence. And that is a craft company, as you've heard. And what they are telling you is true. I live there, their plan. I live in one of those communities, and that's really true, what they've addressed to you. By moving to Independence, it's given me a sense of community. I have great neighbors. We have already had 2 gatherings since I moved in, and I know all the neighbors on my street. I have involvement in Elbert County. I joined the Elbert County Republicans and just recently joined the Farm Bureau. I have the exploration of the shops, restaurants, businesses, and even some of the roads in Elbert County. I'm learning them. There's a lot of them. Because I live here, I spend my money here and want to support the people here in my county. Also, whenever someone comes to visit me outside the county, I take them to the places here, so their money is spent here also. Elbert County has some of the nicest people I know who've welcomed me with open arms. I feel a sense of belonging, and I'm so glad I chose to come here and live in Independence. I would have never been able to experience all the benefits, organizations, businesses, restaurants, shops, and most of all, the wonderful people here. The Independence community allowed me that opportunity because it was a place with enough space for me and my 3 pups that I could afford. So in conclusion, for those of you who are opposed to these types of communities, please allow others to come here as well who want to experience this incredible county. Like me, they will thrive, get involved in the organizations, share experiences with others who come here, and spend their money at the businesses, shops, and restaurants. Best of all, they will find out, like I did, what superb people there are here in Elbert County. And I'll be sure to welcome them and show them around like you did for me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Before you sit down, could we get your address for the record?
1160 Elbert Circle.
Okay, thank you. Looks like Janessa Turbas. I apologize if I misread that. But.
Hello, everyone. I am not currently a Elbert County resident. I did grow up in Elbert County, though, and I hope to get back here hopefully within the next 5 to 10 years. Fingers crossed. But I am a realtor. I work every day to help families achieve the dream of home ownership, and I am here this afternoon to state my support for the approval of EC West. EC West will create a community that will make home ownership possible for working families. EC West gives teachers, nurses, firefighters, police officers, and other working families a place to live here in Elbert County. These are the very people who make a community, and welcoming those families into Elbert County is good for the county and good for all the residents. EC West will take the better part of 2 decades to evolve, and the craft team will be there every step of the way. They have demonstrated their commitment to the county and its residents time and time again with their support for the programs like the Wood Bank, Food Bank, Back the Badge, and the Sheriff's Department, Kiowa and Elizabeth Schools, 4-H, the Stampede, and our community's first departments, etc. EC West will feature some of the craft company's signature developed hallmarks. 50% of the land will remain as open space, a certified 300-year water supply, clear economic benefits to Elbert County and its citizens, and it will deliver some much-needed community serving retail for residents in the area. I grew up in Elbert County, With development, especially in rural community like Elbert County, there are always questions. But one question that can't be denied is whether growth in Colorado and Elbert County will continue. It will. In the craft companies, Elbert County has a developer who cares about our heritage and our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Looks like Sean Tonner. Okay, thank you, sir. Is Linda Crossert still here? I think I may have seen her depart. So, okay. Chrissy Howell, sorry. I know your name and I misread it. So.
What's that?
I said I know your name and I misread it. So
I know, rude. Anyways, hello, thank you for having us all here and allowing this public comment. Our county is vast and open, and what we are lacking in this county is true dedicated open space. And that's something that is provided with this development, and I appreciate it immensely. One of the things that we enjoy more than anything in our development is the bridle trails. I put together 3-hour trail rides once a week over the summer. So for our trail system to eventually integrate, not necessarily on the walking paths, but to have a dedicated equine trail, walking trails, open space, natural scaping, not just open space, but natural scaping to allow for our local wildlife. And when we're driving down the road and we can see actual natural scaping down the road that we're still seeing every day, that's important to me. And they have proven that they can provide that. And for that, I'm very thankful and I appreciate this type of development. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was everybody that had signed up. Is there anybody else? Ma'am. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Brown, and I work for Butterfly Pavilion, helping facilitate thoughtful and native landscaping throughout Colorado. And I am here to offer my support for the approval of EC West by craft companies. Water is the most precious resource in Elbert County, and craft companies is willing to go the lengths necessary to ensure a certified 300-year water supply for EC West. And they are doing it by using aquifers the rest of Elbert County doesn't rely heavily on. Very few other developers would be willing to listen to our concerns about water and work so hard to address those concerns in a responsibility, reasonable way as craft companies has for EC West. Furthermore, EC West is relying on counsel from Butterfly Pavilion to advise in planting native species that support native pollinators. These plants require less water than turf grasses and non-native ornamental plants, and they are suited for the harsh Colorado environment and thrive with low maintenance. So that means they're going to have less water, and we don't have to maintain them as much. And they're also very beautiful. Butterfly Pavilion has proven time and time again that is effective at increasing the abundance and diversity of native pollinator species, and with the pollinator decline recently, this is going to be great to help out pollinators. This directly leads to a healthy and thriving ecosystem. EC West will preserve our natural environment by keeping more than 50% of the developable area untouched open space. EC West will be the kind of place where working families can raise their children in a beautiful and natural environment. EC West protects our water, protects our way of life, and will provide some services that we need in Elbert County, both commercially and for infrastructure. So on behalf of Butterfly Pavilion, we hope you allow EC West to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am in the front row, you would raise your hand.
Hi, I'm Marie Phipps. I live on never remember my address, 4134 H Road 29, and I'm adjacent to that new development, where used to be an island before. I have some comment. I want to thank you guys to have picked up your right address, which is different from mine now. I appreciate that. I will have been to be copied with the email from Caroline White about it, but never anybody contacted me on anything, as she pretends so. Nobody ever called, nobody ever contacted me anywhere. So I never refused any meeting or whatever. I just was never contacted. So I don't know where she came up, why she came up with that idea. Another thing, I'd like to know how big the buffer are going to be between your housing development and my fence. That'd be interesting. I raise cattle. Cattle are big animals. They're dangerous. They can be dangerous. If kids cross the fence, if they get hurt, what's going to happen? Am I going to be responsible or what? If dogs cross, I can shoot them. That I can deal with. But children, I will hate for them to be hurt. That's why I am worried about the buffer and the fence. I saw in your picture some kids playing in the grass with a bicycle nearby. Well, I hope they will never meet a rattlesnake, you know, because that will be bad, or all the black widow and brown recluse who are living in the grass. That won't be very good either, so something hard to chase. If there is 2,850 units, that means there is at least 5,700 people living there, plus children. 5,700 people mean 5,700 cars, plus teenagers in age to drive. So that's an immense traffic addition. So I'm kind of amused that to say, oh, there won't be any impact on the traffic or on the congestion of traffic. I mean, this is very weird. I don't know if any of you have lived in a real open land, open space, but I don't think by your language that anybody has ever experienced that. It's a beautiful place to be, and it's going to be totally, I think, destroyed. You're going to be one of the first to build those houses around that section of Elbert, because I know the plan for Elbert County is to be covered with houses, rabbit cages, as we call them in my country. And it is sad for the future. And what about...
Commissioners, that's 3 minutes.
Sorry? What?
That was 3 minutes, ma'am. But if
Okay,
you could
that's
finish
good.
up,
Thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Waller.
Hi, guys. I didn't intend on being here, but found out about this at the last minute. I want to say great presentation. Very encouraged about the future because we're going to grow regardless. It's the future. Things have to grow, unavoidably. I was highly encouraged to see that you're including in there, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce my address, 1799 Appaloosa Trail, John Waller. You're including cheaper housing, duplexes, patio homes. Those are things that are necessary in order for people to afford somewhere to begin in their lives. I do highly encourage, and the only reason I came up here to speak is I think the commercial space needs to be a little bigger. 10 acres isn't quite enough for the size of the community that you're building. I can see in the future, just being practical, that you're going to need more space for commercial in order to accommodate all those people, so they don't have to come all the way to Kiowa to get their driver's license or whatever else, a post office. But anyway, that's all I got to say. Well planned.
Thank you. Did we have anybody else present that would like to speak? Sir.
Hello, Dan Rosales, 3672 Deer Creek Farms. And I had a presentation to make and prepared, but you know, I think we're just lucky to have such a developer, such as the craft companies. The things that they have done for this county have been remarkable. I don't know where this county would be without the things that Tim Kraft and his company have done for us. we are very fortunate. Now, when we look at what they're producing with EC West, we're looking at a community that's as perfect as you can make it. It's going to have spaces for larger homes. It's going to have regular homes that most people will be able to afford. And it has a space for homes that will be affordable to the people, like the teachers, the firefighters, the deputies, and the people that work in the restaurants and the stores that serve us every day. They need affordable housing, and we need more of that. When we look at economic development, there are three major components: education, jobs, and housing. And if there's any one of those components missing, we will not have economic development, and we will never be a strong, independent county. So I'm very pleased to see what you have developed in this subdivision, and I think people are going to be very happy to live there. So I want to thank you, and I certainly would vote for approval of this subdivision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me. All righty, one last call for public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. I know a couple of folks that made comment left, but I think it would be absolutely appropriate to address their concerns. I would like to take about a 5-minute recess so you can organize, but if you could, it came up a couple of times, specifically the traffic. I think there may be some misunderstanding of what the requirements that you see coming and how they'll be levied. So, and then I think you have the other issues. So we're in recess, and we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes. Thank you. It's 4:35. We're coming out of recess. Our practice has been not to take these beyond 5 p.m. because after the day we've had, that's not likely to lead to good decisions. So, but I think based on the public comment, probably by 5 we can probably address the issues that were raised, and then I think the three of us will have an opportunity this evening to kind of reflect on what we've heard and reconvene tomorrow with our questions and work forward from there. So I'll put the ball is in your court, Mr. Yates.
Is my mic? Oh, there we go. Get a little closer. So we'll do our best to respond to the comments that were made, and then obviously if we missed anything, just please let us know. And unfortunately, the first gentleman who talked about traffic, and I think you know this, but the process that Chris McGranham was referring to, I think is a very good process. We laid out a master plan. We've worked with the county and the county's outside engineer. We identify what we think is going to happen, and then as we bring a plat in, which is before any homes, any homeowners, any cars, we identify specifically what impact that plat would bring. In some of the comments, it is very likely that turn lanes will be required on 29. It's very likely at some point turn lanes will be required on 174. And we just don't know what and when and how. And as we bring a plat in, which is the next step of this process, it will say there's 20 homes and there's 200 car trips a day and you need a turn lane. So we will absolutely follow that. It's the county's process. It's pretty common, I think, across most the metro area, as far as I know. So, and that then gets translated into an SIA that goes along with our plat that says you got to build a turn lane, and we don't get a CO typically until that improvement's done. And there's language in our SIAs that reflect those things have to get built before we can get COs. So I think that addresses that comment a little bit. I know Mr. Lewis, I'm not sure if he's still, there he is, had some questions on the water side. I'm going to let Bruce take those couple water questions, and then we'll jump back and wrap it up.
Thanks, Jim. So the questions that I heard, the first one was related to how are the aquifers actually isolated. So let me just briefly explain how these wells are completed. By law, you can only complete a well in one aquifer. So if we're going down to the Arapahoe Aquifer, we drill through the Dawson, we drill through the Denver, but we can only complete that well in the Arapahoe. So in other words, we only put well screens that allow water into the well in the Arapahoe. And then what happens is we drill that borehole, we set that casing and screen string, we gravel pack around that, but as soon as we get to the top of the Arapahoe, we then have to grout that well all the way from there to the surface. So for example, the Arapahoe well that's being drilled right now at EC West is 1,730 feet deep. The top of the Arapahoe is around 1,200 feet. And so there is grout, cement grout, that seals off everything from 1,200 feet down continuously all the way to ground surface. And so that's how we isolate these wells. And it's required by state law. We're not doing that for any special reason. It's required. And so that is the process of isolating wells to that specific aquifer. The other question that was asked was how do we know or have we evaluated the impact if we are going to drill into the Denver aquifer as one of our initial aquifers for water supply, and what impact could that have potentially to other wells? And so we actually have done some analytical modeling of that, mostly as it relates to Sun Country, because there's a lot of individual residential wells to the north of EC West. And so we have modeled that, and we're very confident that there's minimal to no drawdown associated with EC West Denver wells compared to the wells in Sun Country. Most of the wells in Sun Country are Dawson wells. There are some that are minimally into the Denver aquifer. So there is the potential for some connection, but given the spacing, it's going to be minimal to no effect. And just as an example, even with large production wells, municipal type wells, we like to have a minimum of about 1/4 mile spacing. And the well, for example, that we're drilling now, after we complete the Arapahoe, we're going to drill a Denver well. That well is more than 1/2 mile away. So we do not expect any drawdown associated or any impact with those neighboring individual wells. The last question that I heard was asking if the wells are going to be metered, and absolutely it's required. Every well will have an individual meter, so there won't be any cumulative metering. There has to be a metering at each wellhead, and that's just standard procedure.
I have a quick question. Of that 1,200 feet to the top of the Arapahoe Aquifer, and you've drilled the well to 1,730 feet, that's about 530 feet of rock that's exposed. How much of that is effective water storage?
Well, we screened about 260 feet, so about half of the total formation. So the 1,200 to the 1,730 is the entire Arapahoe formation. The Arapahoe Aquifer, which are the water-bearing sandstones, about half of that, which is fairly typical. It's usually between about 30 and 50% is water-bearing.
Yeah, and if I would, not a technical question on the application, but the county's in the process of developing a water master plan. Would you be available, or can you be made available to just have some discussions with the steering committee and the group that's putting that together? If you've done some modeling, there may be some things that are of use to them as they're working forward on that plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked on water master plans, and I don't know if you're familiar, but I've also been the water resource consultant on all new land use applications in Douglas County for almost over 30 years.
Okay, that's appreciated, sir. I thought I recognized the name, but nice to meet you. Any additional questions on water? No? I know Mr. Lewis had brought up maintenance to reduce fire dangers. Any thoughts on that, I think would be...
Yes, that is something that we have a draft we've provided to both fire departments. That's something, they're a referral agent, as you well know. And so at this point, there's some really good plans out there that you can adopt. We're not just kind of making this up on our own. And we absolutely will do that. And it will include things like mowing, along fence lines along houses, keeping some of the open space mowed down where it makes sense that we can kind of get access to, and all of those things. But we'll follow the experts and the recommendations of both fire districts to make sure, and our district will then be the one to kind of enforce that.
Thank you for that. Any questions on that subject? Or, no? Okay. I know we had a question regarding buffering and fencing. Seemed very specific to one property, but is that something you can address?
Yeah, a couple of things along that line. Our southern border is Miss Phipp's northern border, so that's where it stitches together. We have provided, the road kind of meanders, so it varies. It's not just a straight line of buffer, but the buffer is generally around 100 to 150 feet in, then you have kind of the backs of houses and further up. I think we would treat her private property as any other adjacent private property that people, will be noticed to not go onto private property. That's not something that we're necessarily going to fence, as in fencing as far as tall fence to kind of make it more of a security type fence. But we will, likely have, some kind of clear designation along there, probably use landscaping and other things to help define that boundary.
Finally, I think Mr. Waller had talked about potential, or the thought that the commercial space allocated might not be enough to support businesses that would support that as a relatively independent community. I know you talked that over time you'd make final decisions on how much commercial there was, but if you could kind of walk through that again, I think it'd be pretty...
Yeah, and and so I wasn't clear, and unfortunately I think he left. He made a reference to not enough commercial, but then he kind of made a reference to the parcel that we've allocated for kind of county or community services. And we definitely have flexibility to expand that site. And I would agree with him, that particular site, that 10 acres may not be enough. Depending, we're trying to kind of find a balance between, I don't want an unused whole big area. And because the fire departments are close enough in proximity, they didn't really want to relocate, and they don't want to pull out of, like Sun Country, an existing community, which we respect that. So, yeah, I agree with what he's saying. I think, as we discussed earlier, the commercial areas that we have two different areas, have a pretty good flexible zoning. So, one goes up over 30 acres, and then there's another piece in there. So, we're always open. If the county wanted to open a facility and they needed 12 acres, we would, be all ears, because that always helps us, activate spaces. And so we're not, I guess within reason, we could take as much as you could throw at us on the community service side.
Wish we had the revenue to do the things that are needed right now, but do you have any questions on that? From the public comment, the concerns that seem to be addressed, I think those were the ones that were brought forward. We can certainly recess now, or if there's some immediate questions from the table, we can.
I don't have any more questions. I want to think about it overnight, but what time do we meet tomorrow?
We had noticed for resumption at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon here. So with that, I do appreciate the thoroughness of the presentation. I know it's very hard in the preliminary stages when you're just talking just the PUD zoning requirements and a preliminary plat. It does not feel detailed, but I know there's a tremendous amount of work to get to setting this point where you're setting the stage to move forward into final platting. So I appreciate the efforts that you've gone through, certainly staff, Logan Simpson and our internal staff. 4 rounds of referral. Obviously, there was quite a bit of scrutiny and discussion, so I appreciate it. We will recess now. It is 4:50, and we'll resume here tomorrow at 1 p.m. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you.